Chapter 564. Shinpan stabs Nan Feng in the back? Late at night. Baishui City. Xiao Luo followed Shinpan from a distance. After crossing several streets, Shinpan walked into a small tea house called Xinghu Tea House. Hu Tea House. It should be called Happiness Tea House. Xiao Luo took out a straw hat and put it on his head, lowered the brim, and walked over slowly. Even the signboard was written wrong. At this time, there were not many people drinking tea, and there were only 3 or 5 guests in the small tea house. Shinpan was sitting at the table in the corner of the tea house, and opposite him sat a little old man with a wrinkled face. Who is this old man? Xiao Luo frowned slightly. Xiao Luo could feel that this old man was quite powerful, and must be a strong man above level 40. But he did not show anything unusual. Instead, he walked calmly to the table farthest from Shinpan and sat down. Xiao Luo had been wearing tactical headphones in his ears, so he could hear all the sounds in the tea house clearly. And it didn't matter where he sat. Nan Feng brand special eavesdropping headphones. Tactical headphones are awesome. Sir, what would you like to drink? A man dressed simply and looking like a waiter walked over quickly and looked at Xiao Luo with a smile. Xiao Luo pondered for a moment and said, "Let's have the cheapest one." Okay. The man quickly brought a pot of tea and placed it on Xiao Luo's table. Sir, 1 copper coin. Oh, it's really cheap. Xiao Luo casually took out a copper coin and put it on the table. Okay. Waiter, go and do your work. Don't worry about me. The man laughed and said, Sir, is this your first time here? I'm not a waiter. I'm the boss here. My last name is Hu. You can just call me Boss Hu. The surname is Hu Tea House? Xiao Luo looked at Boss Hu's smiling expression and couldn't help being speechless. Yes. 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 The last name is Hu Tea House. Isn't that a good name? Seeing Xiao Luo was stunned. Boss Hu couldn't help but said with a smile, Xiao Luo, you seem quite proud of giving yourself such a stupid name? I am really cultured to have come up with such a great name. Boss Hu raised his lips and nodded to Xiao Luo, saying, Sir, I will not disturb you anymore. Please enjoy your meal. The annoying boss, who finally left. Xiao Luo poured himself a cup of tea and then pricked up his ears to listen carefully. In the other corner, the conversation between Shinpan and the old man had reached his ears. Shinpan, is it not possible? The old man shouted in a low voice. Of course not. This is my territory. How can I give it to the invaders? Shinpan said anxiously, but... The old man interrupted Shinpan directly. No buts. I want you to bring the leader of the invaders to me before tomorrow night. Otherwise... Shinpan was silent for a long time, and finally sighed, well, I'll try my best. Hearing this, Xiao Luo's expression froze. What's the meaning? Is Shinpan planning to stab Nan Feng in the back? Impossible. Xiao Luo was about to continue listening when 2 middle-aged men walked into the tea house. One of them had a cold expression, with a hint of evil in his eyes. The other man had sharp features and an imposing bearing, and at first glance, he looked like a big shot. What frightened Xiao Luo the most was that the aura emanating from these 2 people made Xiao Luo feel a hint of danger. This shows that the strength of these 2 people is above Xiao Luo. In this small Hu Tea house, 3 powerful men over level 40 suddenly appeared. Xiao Luo lowered his head, sipping his tea silently, not daring to look at the 2 middle-aged men. Fortunately, the 2 middle-aged men did not notice Xiao Luo, who was dressed simply, but walked straight to the tea table in the corner. It seems that they are also here to look for Shinpan. Xiao Luo lowered the brim of his hat, stood up, and walked out of the tea house. It might be dangerous to continue eavesdropping, so it's better to leave first. Find a safe place, and tell Nan Feng the news. Xiao Luo quickened his pace, and just as he was about to turn the corner, a patrolling team of city defense troops came towards him. Every member of the city defense team had a serious expression and carefully looked at the people passing by. No chosen one can escape their eyes. Xiao Luo immediately turned around and walked quickly in another direction. But his unusual behavior had already attracted the attention of the city defense forces. The man in front? Stop! Yes, the one wearing a straw hat. A city defense soldier shouted. Swish! Xiao Luo didn't think much about it. He swooped down and crossed 3 streets at the fastest speed. Seeing this, the city defense troops behind him immediately made every effort to catch up. There are intruders here. Someone come! Someone come quickly! Quick! Notify the city lord. As the voices of the city defense forces spread throughout the streets and alleys, the entire Baishui city instantly entered a tense state of preparation for war. inside the Huti house. When Shinpan heard the voice of the city defense army, he turned around abruptly and looked outside the door with a serious expression. Oh! These invaders came really quickly. The middle-aged man with evil eyes sneered. Opposite Shinpan, an old man stood up with a cane and said in a deep voice, "It seems that we don't have much time. So let's leave it at that for today." The remaining man, with a dignified appearance, patted Shinpan on the shoulder and said, "Remember what you promised." Shinpan nodded silently. In the night market 3 blocks away from Surname Huti House, Xiao Luo mixed in the crowd, took off his straw hat, and casually put it on the head of a passerby next to him. Passersby wondered, what are you doing? Xiao Luo, since you are handsome, I will give you a straw hat. You will look even more handsome when you wear it. The passerby was stunned, then smiled and said, "Thank you." Xiao Luo walked out of the night market without looking back. Before the city defense army caught up with him, he quickly got into an uninhabited house. Safe for now. Xiao Luo opened the panel and said what happened tonight to Nan Feng. After a moment, Nan Feng replied, "It seems that Baishui City has been prepared. I don't know how many strong people above level 40 are hidden in the city. If we attack Baishui City rashly, we may suffer heavy losses. You should come back first, and we will discuss the attacking time later." Xiao Luo, "It doesn't matter when we attack Baishui City. What matters is that Shinpan seems to have teamed up with outsiders and is ready to trick you." Nan Feng, "Do you think Shinpan will stab me in the back?" Xiao Luo thought about it and answered affirmatively, "I don't think so." Nan Feng, "I don't think so either. But now that things have come to this, we might as well wait and see what tricks they come up with." Xiao Luo, "That's fine. Since we're not attacking Baishui City for the time being, I'll come back first." Xiao Luo took out the teleportation array and placed it under his feet. There was a flash of silver light in the room, and Xiao Luo had returned to Black Crow City. Less than 10 seconds after he left, a middle-aged man with evil eyes smashed the house to pieces with a palm. Boom! Houses collapsed and dust filled the sky. The evil man looked coldly at the dust. Run really fast. Chapter 565. See you tonight at 9 o'clock. Late at night, Black Crow City. Inside the city lord's mansion, Nan Feng stood by the window, holding a thick black cigar in his mouth, looking at the night view outside the window with deep eyes. Black Crow City at night is harmonious and peaceful. Only the night market in the distance was still lit up. Xiao Luo, who had just been teleported back from Baishui City, walked in from outside. He stared at the cigar in Nan Feng's mouth and asked, "Where did you get this cigarette?" Nan Feng held the cigar between his index and middle fingers, and answered in a low, hoarse and magnetic voice, "I got it from Longcheng." Xiao Luo, "Why don't you light it?" Nan Feng, "Because I don't know how to smoke." Xiao Luo, "Then what you hold in your mouth is?" Nan Feng, "Have you seen God of Gamblers?" As he spoke, Nan Feng's facial muscles began to move, and his clothes instantly turned into a suit. He blew twice into his palms and combed his hair back. After doing all this, Nan Feng picked up the cigar again, turned around and looked at Xiao Luo. Longcheng is planning to vigorously promote cigars, and is now lacking a live broadcast spokesperson. Do you think my look is competitive? At this time, Nan Feng has turned into Fag's appearance. Xiao Luo rolled his eyes and walked to the windowsill. As the Lord of South City, is it appropriate for you to be a live broadcast spokesperson? I am Brother Fo now, not the Lord of South City. Nan Feng used his magic power to conjure up a puff of smoke and spit it out from his mouth. The profit of this thing is too high. It is more painful to see Long Woody making money than me losing money. I must let him give me some of Nancheng. You decide for yourself. Xiao Luo turned his head and looked out the window. Since we are not attacking Baishui City tonight, I will go to the ancient forest. There are many brothers who are trying to reach level 40. I will go there to take charge. If I encounter a level 40 beast, I can also gain some experience. Nan Feng nodded, "Okay. Go ahead." After a pause, Nan Feng reminded, "Don't go too deep into the ancient forest. There are many powerful beasts in it." Xiao Luo came and left in a hurry. He took out the teleportation array and left Black Crow City. Nan Feng still stood in front of the window, quietly looking at the scenery outside the window. He is waiting. It was not until the sky turned white and the sun shone on the ground that he finally got what he was waiting for. Beep beep beep. The crisp system prompt sound reached Nan Feng's ears, bringing him back to his senses from his daze. He opened the panel and took a look, and found that the message was indeed sent by Shinpan. "Shinpan, are you there?" Are you there? Nan Feng's brows were knitted together. Why can't you just say what you mean? These two words are really hard to reply to. After pondering for a moment, Nan Feng decided to take the cool route and slowly typed a question mark. Southwind? After 10 seconds. Shenpan, are you planning to attack Baishui City recently? I heard from Huang Yuanming. Nan Feng, yes. What's wrong? Shenpan, I know the mayor of Baishui City. This is what happened. Shenpan, he wants to sit down and have a good talk with you to see if there is any chance for cooperation. He said he didn't want to fight and kill, and had no intention of making an enemy of you. Oh! Nan Feng raised his eyebrows. It turned out that the lord of Baishui City didn't want to fight. So he asked Shenpan to find him? I thought they were plotting against me. Nan Feng thought for a while and replied, let's talk. It's not impossible. When can we talk? 2 minutes later. Shenpan replied, what do you think? Tonight at 9 o'clock. Nan Feng, location? Shenpan, the surname Hu Tea House. Baishui City. Nan Feng, okay. I will be there on time. Shenpan, KO. I'll wait for you tonight. The conversation between the two ended here. Nan Feng read the chat record over and over again several times, and murmured in a low voice, it's the opposite. Every sentence is the opposite. Is Shenpan trying to remind me in this way? Is he speaking sarcastically? So, the lord of Baishui City is not going to discuss cooperation with me tonight, but wants to trick me into Baishui City and kill me. But why didn't Shenpan tell me directly? Could it be possible that the other party could see the message he sent me? Nan Feng thought about it, and felt that this was indeed possible. For example, in the 9-layered demon tower, the system panel will be blocked. The natives of this world might actually have some way to see the panel of the Chosen One. It seems that Shenpan has been captured by the natives again. This is really a cause for concern. Nan Feng sighed slightly. He runs so fast. But he is always caught. I am really impressed. I don't know how many ambushes there will be in Baishui City tonight. It will be dangerous if Nan Feng goes there. But if he doesn't go, Shenpan's life might be in danger. Every time it was to save him. Nan Feng opened the panel and sent a group message to the brothers in Nancheng. Come back and have a meeting. Baishui City. The backyard of surname Hu Tea House. The Hu Tea House is very small. So small that it can only accommodate 7 or 8 tables. But the backyard of surname Hu Tea House is very large, with an area about 100 times that of the tea house. The entire backyard is filled with various tea trees, and the fragrance of tea is everywhere. This is why the tea at surname Hu Tea House is so cheap, because boss whose tea is all grown in his own backyard. At this time, Shenpan was sitting in the backyard. His face was frighteningly pale, as if he had not been exposed to the sun for a long time. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man with evil eyes. This man's name is Gongwu. He is level 43. A powerful man from the imperial capital with extraordinary strength. Last night, it was he who smashed the house where Xiao Luo was hiding with one palm. If Xiao Luo had not teleported away in advance, he would have been killed by this man. Gongwu looked at Shenpan with an evil look on his face. What do you think? Will the leader of the Chosen Ones come? Shenpan nodded slightly. He said he would. But I don't know whether he will come or not. Gongwu sneered and said, I don't believe what you say. Let's let Mr. Hu ask. As he was speaking, an old man with a wrinkled face came from a distance, leaning on a cane. If Xiao Luo were here, he would recognize him at a glance. He was the old man who talked with Shenpan last night. The old man called Mr. Hu smiled kindly, sat in front of Shenpan and asked, Shenpan, have you told the leader of the Chosen Ones to meet at the Hu Tea House at 9 o'clock tonight? Shenpan's expression was calm and he nodded, saying, I said it. Will he come then? He said yes. Besides this, what else did you tell him? Nothing said. Did you tell him that it could be dangerous? No. Mr. Hu stared at Shenpan's eyes for a long time, then slowly nodded. He didn't lie. Hearing this, Gongwu sneered, you're smart. Old Hu took out a white pill from his arms and threw it to Shenpan, who reached out and caught it. Why is there only one? Shenpan's tone was a little angry. Old Hu spoke in a friendly manner. This pill is not easy to refine. We have found traces of invaders near Lihua City in the west. Go and kill 2 of them and bring back the bodies, and I will give you another one. Panchen stared at Mr. Hu coldly and said, then you wait. After saying that, Shenpan stood up and left, walking quickly to a small house in the backyard. The light in the hut was very dim, but with Shenpan's eyesight, he could still clearly see a woman in the room. Her hands were hung on the beam, and she could only barely stand on tiptoe. The woman was groggy and could faint at any moment. Her face was 3 points wider than Shinpan's. Shinpan stepped forward quickly and stuffed the pill in his hand into the woman's mouth. Moo. Eat it quickly. The woman swallowed the pill in a daze, and her sickly pale face finally regained some rosy color. Then, Shinpan drew out the dagger and left like lightning. Gongwu looked at Shinpan's receding back and said in a cold voice, Mr. Hu. At such an important moment, you're just going to let him go? Mr. Hu smiled and said, he will come back. Gongwu, if you don't keep an eye on him, aren't you afraid that he will inform the leader of the invaders? Mr. Hu, he wouldn't dare, unless he wanted to watch that woman die in his arms. Chapter 566 Meeting. Black Crow City. Meeting room of the City Lord's Mansion. There is a large round table in the conference room that can accommodate 20 people. At this time, 13 seats are occupied. Sitting in the main seat was the initiator of this meeting, Nan Feng. Boom boom boom. Nan Feng tapped the table lightly, attracting everyone's attention. He coughed lightly and said slowly, Ladies and gentlemen, today's meeting will mainly discuss 2 topics, namely how to rescue Shinpan and what to eat for lunch today. I hope everyone will speak actively. Su Ming raised his hand and said, Let's cook noodles. It's more convenient to cook noodles for so many people. Wang Yuanming added, We need to add some beef. Otherwise, I won't be able to satisfy my hunger. Nan Feng knocked on the table again. Let's talk about lunch later. Let's mainly discuss how to rescue Shinpan. This guy has probably been controlled by the natives of Baishui City. Yuran wondered, Isn't Shinpan a very fast runner? Why is he always caught? Huang Yuanming, so, sometimes, speed is not necessarily a good thing. Don't drive. Have a serious discussion. Nan Feng knocked on the table again and looked at Xiao Luo. Xiao Luo, what do you think? Xiao Luo, who was carving wood with 7-star thunder, put down the dagger in his hand. He tilted his head and thought for a while before he spoke. I saw Shinpan last night. He was walking freely on the street and didn't look like he was being controlled by anyone. Cheng Mo frowned. Did he voluntarily join the indigenous camp? Wu Yuansheng, impossible. Shinpan will not betray us unless he uses a beauty trap. Su Zuran, speaking of honey traps, I remember Shinpan has a girlfriend. Why don't we ask her? She might know something. Yi Piaoling, are you talking about Wang Mumu? She left Black Crow City some time ago. I haven't contacted her for a long time. I'll ask her now. Left Black Crow City? Nan Feng frowned slightly, as if thinking of something. When did she leave? Yi Piaoling thought for a moment and replied, She left a few days after we captured Black Crow Peak. Is that so? Nan Feng nodded silently. No. What can you get out of asking Wang Mumu? Why not ask Shinpan directly? Wang Yuanming expressed his confusion and directly opened the panel to send a message to Shinpan. After only a few seconds, Wang Yuanming laughed. Look, isn't he replying to me? Everyone looked at Wang Yuanming. What did he say? Wang Yuanming, I asked him where he was now, and he said he was going to Lihua City. Nan Feng asked hurriedly, I am going to Lihua City. Was this his original words? Wang Yuanming touched his head in confusion. No. The original words were I'm preparing to go to Lihua City. What's the difference? This is not an inverted sentence. No. You have known Shinpan for so long. When has he ever said an inverted sentence? He must have done it on purpose. Nan Feng said in a serious tone, all the messages he sent me were reversed. At first, I thought they were inverted sentences, and didn't notice anything wrong until he said at the end KO. I'll wait for you tonight. Then I realized what was going on. This KO must have been written backwards on purpose to remind me. Of course, even if he didn't remind me, I would be able to find the problem. After all, my IQ is as high as 249, making me a genius among geniuses. The others pretended not to hear the bragging behind him. However, after hearing Nanfeng's words, everyone realized that something might have really happened to Shinpan, and he was not joking. Everyone stopped chatting, and their expressions became serious. At this time, Wang Yuanming suddenly said, Shinpan sent another message. He said, everyone says pear blossoms are fragrant. But how can pear blossoms be as fragrant as wildflowers? And how can wildflowers be as fragrant as domestic flowers? It is indeed an irony. Even the most slow-witted Su Ming could tell at this time that wildflowers must be more fragrant than domestic flowers. After all, the ones grown elsewhere are the best. Don't drive. Nan Feng knocked on the table again and again in a very serious tone. It seems that the situation is very clear. Shenpan's girlfriend was captured by the natives of Baishui City. So Shenpan helped them. Yi Piaoling bit her lip lightly and said, Mumu is mine. I will find a way to rescue her. What do you mean your people? It's me. Nefeng said here, and suddenly felt someone staring at him with hostile eyes. He immediately said seriously, I'm from Nancheng. Don't forget. The chosen ones from your District 113 have already joined Nancheng a long time ago. Wang Yuanming, so what should we do now? Should we go directly to Baishui City to rob people? Xiao Luo rejected it and said, no. I saw 3 experts above level 40 in Baishui City last night. There is no difference between robbing people and committing suicide. Besides, we don't know where Wang Mumu is. Nan Feng pondered and said, 3 level 40 warriors are nothing to be afraid of. I can take Xiao Nan there. But Xiao Luo is right. We have to know where Wang Mumu is first. Upon hearing this, everyone turned their attention to Yi Piaoling. Yi Piaoling shook his head slowly. I just sent her a message. But she didn't reply to me. Wang Yuanming, well, I'd better ask Shenpan directly, instead of wasting his energy. But what surprised Wang Yuanming was that Shenpan did not reply a single word this time. Nefeng, I had a guess before. That is, the natives have some way to see Shenpan's system panel. So he didn't dare to tell us more. Now it seems that my guess was correct. After all, my IQ of 249 is no joke. I'll go to Lihua City and ask him in person. Xiao Luo placed the newly carved wooden sculpture of Ultra Father on the table and disappeared in a flash. Everyone was stunned. This? Was that Luo Ji's clone just now? Wang Yuanming exclaimed. I never realized that Luo Ji's clone is getting more and more powerful. I also want to learn the art of clones. Nefeng knocked on the table again. Okay. Everyone listen to me first. Cheng Mashu said proudly. You two should also go to Lihua City with Xiao Luo. Su Zuran, you should quickly send someone to Linjiang City to find out whether the strong man who came yesterday has left. If he has, we will take over Linjiang City immediately. I'll take Xiaonan to Baishui City to see what tricks the city lord is planning to play. Okay. Today's meeting ends here and is adjourned. By the way, let's have beef noodles for lunch today. Okay. Let's adjourn the meeting. Chapter 567 The Price of Becoming the Chosen One. After eating the beef noodles without toppings, Nefeng took Xiaonan and got on the unicorn carriage and quickly rushed to Baishui City. Come on! The south wind waved the whip and gently patted the unicorns, but, after all, this unicorn is only level 23. If Nefeng uses a little force, it will be beaten into a pulp. He has to be gentle. In the carriage, Xiaonan, who was temporarily hired as a bodyguard, pouted and asked unhappily, Brother, why don't we fly over? Nefeng said without even turning his head, flying over there would be too conspicuous. Besides, I am the lord of a city now. If I go out without a car, wouldn't it be a loss of face? Xiaonan rolled his eyes. But it would be very embarrassing for you to ride in a unicorn carriage. This is the cheapest carriage in the world, and anyone can afford it. Nefeng, what do you know? Others have just unicorns. But mine is a unicorn treasure horse. Conan laughed. You little brat. Do you know the value of a BMW? Nefeng lifted the curtain and got into the carriage. Then tell me, what kind of carriage would be more prestigious? Xiaonan counted on his fingers and said, Xiao Tang's mount when he was young was the green sand demon horse. Emperor Zun's mount was the thunder beast. And Suyana's mount back then was the golden lightning dragon. Aren't these much more powerful than your unicorn BMW? Xiaonan deliberately stretched the word bao very long. Nefeng snorted disdainfully. Things like mounts are dispensable to me. It doesn't matter. You understand. Xiaonan sneered. That's because you don't have a good mount. Brother, you sound like you have one. Nefeng also sneered and asked. Aren't you sitting in my BMW now? Humph. Now is now. My mount back then was. Xiaonan raised his little head proudly, looked at Nefeng with his 2 nostrils, and after thinking seriously for a few seconds, he suddenly became depressed, remembering that I didn't have a mount back then. I always sat behind Suyana. I thought your mount was so powerful back then. Nefeng took the opportunity to laugh back. Xiaonan retorted, What do you know? Mounts are dispensable to me. They are not as fast as me anyway. So what's the point of having them? Okay. Use my words to refute me. Just as Nefeng was about to say something, Xiaonan quickly spoke up, By the way, brother, do you want a mount? Suyana's golden thunder dragon is still alive, deep in the ancient forest. I can get it out. Nafeng pondered for a moment and shook his head slowly. Forget it. I'm afraid Sayana will kill me. Although Nafeng really wants to be a dragon knight. The Golden Thunder Dragon has been able to live for so many years. So its strength must be far beyond Nafeng. It's hard to say who will ride whom. People riding dragons? Dragon rider. But when it comes to Sayana, Nafeng suddenly has a question that has been hidden in his heart for a long time. And wants to ask Xiaonan. Xiaonan. I have been in this world for several months. Why haven't I seen a single red star person? Aren't they the chosen ones of the last generation? Could they be killed by the natives? Xiaonan raised her eyebrows slightly. Didn't Sayana tell you? When she was level 30, she failed to kill the fallen demon and could only watch all the ordinary people being killed by the fallen demon. I know that. But those who died were just ordinary people. What about the Red Star's chosen ones? Why didn't they pass on the Red Star civilization? Nafeng wondered. Xiaonan was silent for a while. Then spoke softly. The chosen one will not have offspring. Huh? Nafeng's eyes widened. How can such a thing exist? How is this different from being a eunuch? As if afraid that Nafeng was not shocked enough. Xiaonan silently added, and the lifespan of the chosen one is only 100 years. Ah! Nafeng's pupil shrank sharply. No. Are you kidding me? I heard from the Tang family that a level 42 warrior can live for 500 years. And a level 45 warrior can live for thousands of years. You told me that I can only live for 100 years? Why? Xiaonan looked at Nafeng calmly. How can you reach the level that the indigenous people have achieved after hundreds of years of hard practice in just 1 year? Nafeng, because I am the chosen one. Xiaonan nodded, yes. Because you are the chosen one. You have gained infinite benefits brought by this identity. But naturally you have to pay the corresponding price for it. Unable to produce offspring, and having a lifespan of only 100 years. This is the price the chosen one needs to pay. Xiaonan whispered. You can also understand that this is a curse he imposes on all the chosen ones. Only by reaching level 49 can this curse be broken. When talking about him, Xiaonan pointed above his head and said, You know who I am referring to? Right? The god of creation. Nafeng frowned. What is the meaning of this curse? Is it to force us to improve our strength as quickly as possible and become powerful people at the level of Creator God? But the more powerful people at the level of Creator God, the more threats they will pose to him. Right? Xiaonan shook his head. There can't be many powerful people at the level of the god of creation. Having said this, Xiaonan suddenly covered his mouth and looked at the sky outside the window in panic. After 5 minutes, Xiaonan finally put his hand down, patted his chest lightly, and let out a long sigh. I was scared to death. You chosen ones can say those 3 words casually. But I can't say them. Or he will target me. Ah? There is such a thing? Seeing Xiaonan's nervous face, Nafeng could only suppress all the questions in his mind, lest he continue to talk and attract his attention. The carriage fell silent. Nafeng was quietly digesting what Xiaonan had just said. These few short sentences contained so much information. Call. Boom. Snap. The unicorn pulling the carriage let out a cry of surprise. And then the entire carriage flipped twice in the air and fell to the ground in pieces. In the dust and fog, Nafeng walked out with Xiaonan in his hand. With a gloomy face. What kind of broken horse is this? You can pull a cart, and it can turn it over? Nafeng cursed and muttered, looking at the unicorn that fell to the ground. His eyes fixed. I saw that the 4 legs of the unicorn had been cut off by something sharp. It fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Xiaonan pouted. Very unhappy. Which bastard damaged my BMW? Come out and get beaten. Xiaonan's voice echoed in the empty mountains and fields. After a moment, some kind of villain's unique laughter came from deep in the forest. Hee hee hee. A middle-aged man with evil eyes came out from behind the tree, laughing. What a surprise! I didn't expect that the leader of the chosen ones would actually come to the appointment alone. The middle-aged man who spoke was Geng Wu. More than an hour ago, he received news that Nafeng had already left for Baishui City on a unicorn carriage. The greedy Geng Wu suddenly had an idea and came to this necessary road, ready to kill Nafeng. Of course, although he was greedy for credit, he was also very cautious. Once he finds that there is an expert following Nafeng, he will immediately return to Baishui City. But he observed the carriage for a long time, and found that there were only Nafeng and a little girl about 10 years old in it. Is this chosen one's leader here on vacation? Seeing Nafeng was so arrogant, Geng Wu did not hesitate and immediately launched an attack, cutting off the unicorn's legs. At this time, he was still very cautious, hiding carefully aside, wanting to see if anyone would come out to support Nan Feng. But he waited a moment and realized that he was being too cautious. In this desolate mountain and wilderness, there is not a single person to be found within a radius of 50 miles. You actually dared to come here alone. Should I say you are stupid or foolish? Gung Wu laughed. Nan Feng glanced at Xiaonan, who was so angry that she put her hands on her hips, and sneered, "Are you blind? Didn't you see that I brought a bodyguard with me?" Gung Wu looked down at the little Xiaonan and burst out laughing. "Bodyguard? Are you talking about this little brat? Ha ha, Chapter 568 Mount Pony Speed 7. Ha ha ha, Gung Wu's laughter suddenly got stuck in his throat. The little girl, whom he didn't take seriously at all, suddenly opened her mouth and spit out a golden sun. The horrific high temperature set the surrounding trees on fire, and even the ground beneath the feet became extremely hot. Gung Wu's face changed drastically, as if he had seen a female ghost, and he flew rapidly into the air. But the golden sun followed Gung Wu closely like a leech, and was getting closer and closer to him. Soon, the golden sun swallowed Gung Wu whole. Level 45. At the last moment of his life, Gung Wu roared, his voice filled with endless despair. Until his death, he could not figure out why a little girl, who looked about 10 years old, could burst out with such terrifying power. Humph! If you dare to bully my little BMW, I will kill you. Xiaonan snorted proudly, and spat out a colorful stone from his mouth. She took the stone and rubbed it on Nanfeng's clothes until all the saliva on the stone was wiped clean. Then she smiled, and put the colored stone into her pocket. South Wind. Brother, what should I do with this little BMW? Xiaonan jumped in front of the unicorn and pouted unhappily, saying, I don't know how to save a horse. I asked the wet nurse to come and feed it. Nan Feng opened the panel, and prepared to shake Sui-Han over. This unicorn is only level 23. And Sui-Han's healing spell is enough to fill up its health. Upon hearing this, Xiaonan hurriedly said, Ask Sister Han to bring a cup of milk tea over. An extra large one. Well, this little guy is addicted to milk tea. Nan Feng shook his head helplessly, and sent a message to Sui-Han, Little Nani, come and save people. Oh, and bring 2 extra large cups of milk tea. After Sui-Han received the message, he thought Nan Feng was in some danger, and quickly sent it over. When she saw that the person she was going to save was a unicorn, her pretty face suddenly turned cold. Didn't you say you were here to save people? Is this the person you were talking about? As the saying goes, saving a horse's life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Before Nan Feng could finish his words, Sui-Han cast a healing spell and teleported back to Black Crow City. Hey, you're leaving now? Where's my milk tea? Nan Feng turned to look at Xiaonan. I asked her to bring it, but she didn't. It's none of my business. Xiaonan started to go crazy and shook his head wildly. I want to drink milk tea. Okay. I'm really scared of you. I'll buy it for you right now. There was no other way. Nan Feng could only send a message to Huang Yuanming, asking him to send over 2 extra large cups of milk tea. After Sui-Han fed the unicorn a sip of milk, the horse quickly stood up again, rubbing Xiaonan's face affectionately with its head. Nan Feng walked up and flattered the horse. Good boy. The road ahead is very dangerous. You go back to Black Crow City by yourself. The unicorn understood what Nan Feng said, and ran back happily, wagging its tail. Xiaonan nodded in appreciation. This little horse has a high IQ and is qualified to be my mount. Man, why don't you give this pony a name? A name? Nan Feng looked at the unicorn, which had turned into a small black dot, and murmured, It's so fast. Why not call it Pony Speed 7? What do you think? Pony Speed 7? That's a good name. I will feed it a lot of elixirs and magic medicines later, and help it break through level 40 first. Xiaonan said excitedly. A few minutes later, Huang Yuanming packed 2 extra large cups of milk tea and sent them over. As soon as he appeared, Huang Yuanming complained, No. Nanshan, can you please not ask me to do this kind of errands? I'm very busy. Okay? What are you busy with? Nan Feng took the milk tea, gave 1 cup to Xiaonan, and kept 1 cup for himself. We are taking over Linjiang City, Huang Yuanming explained. Linjiang City has a large population, so my foot massage parlor must open a branch here. Can't I choose a location to open a store? And I have to recruit some technicians, cleaning staff, and lobby managers. Isn't this a big deal? Nan Feng raised his eyebrows. You took over Linjiang City so quickly? There are no strong people in the city? Wang Yuanming, there were only a few strong men, and the strongest was only level 39. They didn't dare to resist and surrendered directly. Nanfeng pondered for a moment and murmured, "It seems that the strong man I met yesterday should be heading towards Blackwater City. I have to send a message to Brother Long to remind him." Wang Yuanming waved his hand. "Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I'm busy." Wang Yuanming left excitedly, and continued to expand and strengthen his foot massage parlor. Nanfeng sent a message to Long Wudi, and then came to Geng Wu's body to try if he could get some equipment. But Geng Wu had been burned to ashes by Xiaonan's fireball, so there was no corpse at all. Nanfeng had no choice but to give up and took Xiaonan's hand and walked towards Baishui City. Without the unicorn, they could only take bus number 11 to travel. However, their speed was several times faster than riding in a carriage. While on the road, Nanfeng caught a glimpse of Xiaonan's shoes and raised his eyebrows. "Hey, Xiaonan, are these the new boots you bought? They look pretty good." "Xiaonan, of course. This is what I am doing." "Nanfeng, stop. We haven't received any advertisements yet. Let's go quickly." Xiaonan. In the Falling Sun Empire, in a small village outside Liwa City, the sky gradually darkened, and the villagers had dinner early and crawled into bed to prepare for sleep. These villagers didn't know that there was a demon in the village at this time. Kaido Tsushima is a chosen one from the Sakura country in the original world number 82. Since he left the fog, he has been wandering in various mountain villages and towns. He knew that with his strength, any decent indigenous warrior could easily kill him, so he never entered a big city. But in these small villages and towns, it is difficult to encounter powerful natives, so Tsushima Kaido can do whatever he wants. He. Miss Hua. Lo there. In a small house in the southeast of the village, Tsushima Kaido whispered with a lewd smile on his face. Originally, a family of 5 lived in the cottage: father, mother, eldest brother, eldest sister-in-law and youngest sister. But now, father, mother and elder brother have all died at the hands of Kaido Tsushima. The only remaining sister-in-law and younger sister could not escape the clutches of Tsushima Kaido. After being tortured, they died with hatred. "It tastes really good." Tsushima Kaido licked his lips, as if he was still savoring what had just happened. This is not the first time he has done such a thing. Before this, countless innocent women have died at his clutches. After each crime, Kaido Tsushima would flee the crime scene as quickly as possible. In addition, everyone who had seen him was dead, so he was always safe. Tonight, Tsushima Kaido did the same as usual. After taking care of the family of 5, he put on his clothes and left the village. But suddenly, a strange sound came from behind him. Swish. Tsushima Kaido turned around suddenly. "Who?" It was quiet behind me, with no one around. Tsushima Kaido felt a little uneasy and his heart beat faster. Something is wrong. The atmosphere here is wrong. I need to leave here as soon as possible. Tsushima Kaido turned his head and was about to leave when he saw a pale face in front of him. "Ah! Ghost!" Tsushima Kaido screamed in fright and took several steps back. But he quickly calmed down and asked, "Who are you?" Shinpan stared at Tsushima Kaido with cold eyes and said in a cold voice, "You are worthy of being from the beast country. You can only do what beasts do." Chapter 569 Curse. As expected of a person from a beast country, he only does what beasts do. Shinpan spoke coldly. Upon hearing this, Tsushima Kaido glared at Shinpan. "Baka. Who do you say is a beast?" Saying you. A silver light flashed, and Shinpan's dagger left a bloody mark on Tsushima Kaido's neck. Tsushima Kaido reacted belatedly and quickly backed away, covering his neck. What a fast knife! It's a pity that there was no serious damage. The cut was no different from scraping. Kaido Tsushima didn't even feel any pain. "Are you the chosen one of Dragon Country?" Xiandao Kaido stared at Shinpan coldly. "We are all chosen ones. Why did you attack me?" Shinpan stepped forward and stabbed again. "I am the chosen one. You are a beast." After being hit just now, Tsushima Kaido was already on guard. He immediately drew out his samurai sword and started fighting with Shinpan. The sword flashed, and the two men fought back and forth, unable to separate. But as the fight went on, Tsushima Kaido's brows were almost twisted into knots, because he failed to hit Shinpan with his sword. Instead, there were more than a dozen bloody marks on his body. Although these scars were very shallow and only broke the skin, they could still be seen from the side that Shinpan's strength was far above his. "Baka, did you do this on purpose?" Tsushima Kaido roared. "You could have killed me with one blow. But you chose to humiliate me in this way? What a shameless person. Shen Pan was a little embarrassed. But his offensive did not slow down at all. In fact, Shen Pan didn't do it on purpose. But his attack power was just that low. But it's better this way, as it will make the little Sakura's death less painful. Ha! Draw the sword and slash. Tsushima Kaido suddenly roared, raised his hand, and slashed out a long sword energy. Shen Pan was forced to retreat, and Tsushima Kaido took this opportunity to escape quickly into the distance. Can you still outrun me? A smile appeared on Shen Pan's pale face, and he caught up with Tsushima Kaido in no time. Why? Tsushima Kaido knew that there was no hope of escaping. So he stopped and roared, You want to avenge those natives? Are you crazy? We are all Blue Star people. We are compatriots. You actually want to kill your compatriots for a group of ignorant aliens? Shen Pan looked at Tsushima Kaido with cold eyes and great disgust. You are a beast. I am a human. Fellow countrymen? Uh-huh. You are worthy? Upon hearing this, Tsushima Kaido became furious. He clenched the samurai sword in both hands and was ready to fight Shen Pan to the death. But he found that his body was gradually becoming weak, accompanied by a series of symptoms such as dizziness, tinnitus, and chest tightness. You, Tsushima Kaido spoke tremblingly. The knife is poisoned? You are so insidious. Swish, swish, swish. Shen Pan stopped talking nonsense, swung his right hand, and stabbed Kaido Tsushima more than 100 times. The poison on the dagger quickly spread to Kaido Tsushima's whole body. He fell to the ground with a bang, and his health points continued to decrease. Just wait for death. Shen Pan did not kill Tsushima Kaido directly. Instead, he stood aside, took out a piece of cloth, and leisurely wiped the blood off the dagger. Kaido Tsushima took out the teleportation array tremblingly, trying to escape from here, but Shen Pan stepped forward and kicked the teleportation array more than 10 meters away. At this moment, Tsushima Kaido was really desperate. Let me go! Please, please, I'll give you money. I have a lot of equipment. I can give them all to you. Just spare my life. Ah, dragon countryman. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Soon, Tsushima Kaido began to shed tears of blood. His head tilted and he died. A warm current flowed into Shen Pan's body, greatly increasing his experience value. A grayish-white ball of light floated out from Kaido Tsushima's body, and Shen Pan waved his hand and put it into his backpack. Alas, if I had come 10 minutes earlier, you might not have died. Shen Pan stared in the direction of the village and murmured in a low voice. But I have avenged you. I hope you can rest in peace. Shen Pan took out a large piece of white cloth from his backpack, wrapped Tsushima Kaido's body, and dragged him back to Baishue's city. After walking forward for about 10 minutes, Shen Pan's ears moved slightly, and he turned his head sharply to look behind him. Who is it? Come out? Good listening skills. Xiao Luo's voice reached Shen Pan's ears. 10 seconds later, Xiao Luo, Chung Imo, and Xiao Anren walked out from the woods in the distance. Luo Ge and Chung Imo and Xiao An ran. Why are you here? A smile from the heart appeared on Shen Pan's pale face. He pointed to his ears and said, Your hearing must be good. I also have tactical headphones. Nanfeng has a total of 32 tactical headsets. Each of the top fighters in Nancheng has one, and Shen Pan is no exception. We are here to find you, Xiao Luo said calmly. Let's go. Come back with us. Shen Pan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. No. I have to go back to Baishue City. Having said that, Shen Pan ignored the 3 people and continued to drag the corpse towards Baishue City. If you're kidnapped, just blink. Chung Imo stood in front of Shen Pan. Shen Pan blinked frantically. There is sand in his eyes. The 3 of them looked at each other and understood what Shen Pan meant. He was really being controlled. Xiao Aran said in a deep voice, Shen Pan, we will ask you questions. If the answer is yes, you keep going forward. If the answer is no, you stop where you are. Upon hearing this, Shen Pan continued to drag the corpse forward. Xiao Luo spoke first. Is it the Lord of Baishue City who controls you? Shen Pan didn't stop. Chung Imo then asked, Your face is very pale. Are you poisoned? Did they use poison to control you? Shen Pan stopped. Not poisoned? The 3 looked at each other, but did not dwell on this issue too much. Xiao Aran asked again, Is Wang Mumu in their hands? Shen Pan trembled slightly and continued to move forward. Xiao Luo said, If it's because of Wang Mumu, then you can go with us. Nanfeng has now sneaked into Baishue City and will definitely be able to rescue Wang Mumu tonight. So you don't have to go back. Shen Pan's face changed when he heard this. Didn't Nanshan understand what I meant? I told him not to keep the appointment tonight. There are masters in Baishui City. Xiao Luo signaled Shen Pan to calm down. You don't have to worry about him. He brought bodyguards with him. Shen Pan breathed a sigh of relief, but still said anxiously, quickly tell Nanshan not to save Mumu. Mumu will die. If I save her, will she still die? What is the principle behind this? Xiao Luo frowned and asked, why? Shen Pan couldn't care less now, and said directly, my face is so pale. Not because of poisoning, but because of curse. The same goes for Mumu. If we can't take the antidote on time, we will die. Curse? Xiao Luo shrugged, took out the teleportation array and threw it on the ground, shaking the little Nani Suihan over. Why are you looking for me? Are you asking me to save the horse? Suihan teleported over in a bad mood, and when she saw Shen Pan's pale face, she reflexively cast a healing spell. It's useless. My health is full. Shen Pan smiled bitterly, and said that healing magic could not remove the curse. Curse? Suihan raised his staff high. An array of bright moonlight fell on Shen Pan. Purification. Shen Pan's pale face regained a hint of color, but soon turned pale again. Suihan exhaled and shook his head gently. No. I can't remove the curse on him. Chapter 570. Infiltrating Baishui City. The curse on Shen Pan was planted by Old Hu from Baishui City himself. Old Hu is a powerful warrior of level 42. And Suihan is only level 37 now. The difference in strength is too great, so it is normal that he cannot lift the curse. Xiao Luo asked in a serious tone, if I kill the person who cast the curse on you, can I break the curse? Shen Pan shook his head and said, no. I will die with him. Oh, this is really difficult. Everyone frowned and lowered their heads to think about countermeasures. You don't have to worry about me. Shen Pan glanced at the time and saw that it was getting late. He did not dare to delay any longer and quickly told everyone the information he knew. There is a surname Hu tea house in Baishui City. The grandfather of the owner of the tea house is called Old Hu. It was he who planted my curse. He also has the ability to tell if someone is lying. This is also the reason why I dare not tell Nanshan directly that Baishui City is in danger, because I will be questioned by him. I have told you so much tonight. I have to think carefully about how to deal with his problems when I get home. By the way, you should quickly tell Nanshan to evacuate Baishui City as soon as possible. There are several strong men from the imperial capital in the city, some of whom I have never seen before. I don't know how strong they are, but they must be very strong. I am temporarily helping Mr. Hu. He still has some use for me, and he won't kill me in the short term. When I find a way to lift the curse, I'll find a way to tell you. After saying this, Shen Pan didn't dare to delay any longer and rushed back, dragging Tsushima Kaido's body. Xiao Luo and others watched Shen Pan go away. Suihan lowered his eyebrows. He must have suffered a lot during this period of time. Chumyam, oh yeah. His face was so pale, like a male ghost. Xiao Ah ran, as a man. It's okay to suffer a little, as long as you are alive. Xiao Luo, I will contact Nan Feng to prevent him from killing Mr. Hu. Shen Pan will also be buried with him. At the same time, Baishui City, Nan Feng, who possessed the tactical mecha and the tactical mask, transformed himself into an ordinary old farmer, and walked into Baishui City with Xiaonan in his hand. Going into the city. Simple. Nan Feng chuckled. A city defense army passed by Nan Feng, but Nan Feng stood there without any panic, and had no intention of dodging. But there was a sharp-eyed city defense soldier who frowned when he saw Xiaonan's clean and pretty little boots, and Nanfeng's clothes were full of patches. Hey, you old farmer. What's your relationship with this little girl? The city defense soldier stepped forward and asked with a stern look on his face. Nan Feng answered timidly, oh, sir, this is my little granddaughter. As he spoke, Nan Feng pulled Xiaonan to his side and said, dear grandson, why don't you say hello to this adult? Xiaonan put her hands on her hips, pouted her lips and snorted. Who am I? Xiaonan? I'm sending you a greeting from a city defense soldier. Can you handle it? Seeing this, the city defense soldiers couldn't help but sneer. This little girl is so arrogant. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed Xiaonan's hair. Nan Feng was quick-witted and quick-handed. He reached out and grabbed the wrist of the city defense soldier. At this moment, the city defense soldier's face changed drastically. He felt the bones in his right hand creaking, and it was possible that they would be crushed by this ordinary old farmer in front of him at any time. The city defense troops looked at Nan Feng in horror. Which city did this strongman come from? He actually pretended to be an old farmer and showed off here? Are you sick? Nafeng smiled and said, My lord. The child is ignorant, and you should not bear grudges. As he spoke, Nafeng increased his strength by 0.1 point. Beads of sweat the size of beans broke out on the city defense soldier's forehead. His facial features were twisted in pain, and he said tremblingly, Yes. Yes. I understand. Nafeng then smiled and let go of his hand. Hey. Lao Hai. What are you doing over there? Why don't you come over here? In the distance, the other city defense troops of this team discovered Lao Hai, who had fallen behind, and shouted immediately. Lao Hai looked at Nafeng with fear and strode towards his teammates. Come on. Come on. After returning to the team, the other city defense soldiers looked at Lao Hai, who was sweating profusely, and couldn't help wondering, Lao Hai, what happened to you? What happened to the old farmer just now? The old farmer. Lao Hai looked back cautiously and saw the old farmer and the little girl still standing there, staring at him with strange smiles on their faces. He shivered and laughed. It's okay. This is my neighbor. I met him on the road and just said hello. So that's it. The others did not doubt and continued their patrol. The team leader did not forget to remind his team members, everyone keep your eyes open. If we let the invaders sneak into the city, we will all be in trouble. Do you understand? Intruders. Intruders. Lao Hai was shocked. And then he realized belatedly that the old farmer just now was not a strong man from other cities, but an invader. Captain. Lao Hai hurriedly opened his mouth to report the situation to the captain. But he had just said a few words when he felt a thorn in his back, and the shadow of death loomed in his heart. The intruder was still staring at him. Lao Hai was sweating profusely. What are you doing? Lao Hai. The team leader looked at Lao Hai unhappily and asked, What do you mean by saying half of what you said? Do you want me to guess it? Captain. My stomach feels uncomfortable. Lao Hai said with a distorted face. Oh. It turns out you have diarrhea. No wonder you are so shy. The understanding captain patted Lao Hai on the shoulder and said, Go. And come back soon. Upon hearing this, Lao Hai covered his stomach and ran out, soon disappearing at the end of the street. Running so fast, it seems that he has diarrhea. The team leader sighed and said to the others, Let's continue patrolling. Keep your eyes open. After watching the city defense team go away, Nafeng took Xiaonan's hand again and walked towards the crowded place. Nafeng, Xiaonan. You almost exposed us just now. Xiaonan, what are you exposing? I'm not the chosen one. Nafeng, you almost exposed me. It would be such a pity if my disguise was exposed. Tactical mecha covered Nanfeng's entire body, making it difficult for these natives to detect Nanfeng's identity as the chosen one. Nafeng took Xiaonan for a walk in the city and recorded the nearby terrain. At this moment, Xiao Luo sent a series of messages to Nafeng, all of which were about Shenpan and Baishui City. A curse? I see. After reading these, Nafeng smiled coldly. Your surname is Hu Ti House. Right. I will tear it down for you tonight, and see if you are still happy. Chapter 571, Going to the Meeting Alone. Night falls. Nafeng and Xiaonan wandered around Baishui City for more than 2 hours, and basically figured out the terrain in the southern part of the city. It was 8:40 in the evening, and there were about 20 minutes left before the time agreed upon by Nafeng and Shenpan. Xiaonan, let's go to Mr. Hu's tea house. Otherwise those guys in Baishui City will get anxious. Nafeng spoke to Xiaonan. This time, he had to keep the appointment, although he knew it was a trap. Shenpan would be in great danger if Nafeng did not show up. His only value now is that he can lure Nafeng out. If even this little bit of effect doesn't exist, then Shenpan will be of no use to the natives. And it's hard to say whether he can still save his life at that time. Okay. Finish the task quickly and go home quickly. Xiaonan, who has been outside for the whole day, can't wait to go home. Nafeng leaned close to Xiaonan's ear and whispered, We will split up later. I will do this. And you will do that. Do you understand? Xiaonan stretched out his hand and made an okay gesture. Okay. Brother. I promise to complete the task. The two went their separate ways. Xiaonan skipped into the dark alley, while Nafeng put away his disguise and swaggered towards the surname Hu Tea House in his true appearance. The street leading to surname Hu Tea House is very deserted. It goes without saying that this street must have been cleared in advance in order to wait for the arrival of the south wind. There are quite a lot of people lying in ambush. Nanfeng was keenly aware that there were more than a dozen unfriendly eyes around him, staring at him. But Nanfeng was not panicked at all. He put his hands behind his back and continued to walk forward with a swagger. Soon, the sign of surname Hu Tea House came into view. At the entrance of the tea house, there was a little old man with wrinkles on his face, looking at Nanfeng with a smile, as if he was here to greet him. You must be Nanfeng, the leader of the chosen ones. Right? You dared to attend the meeting alone. You are really brave. I admire you. The old man smiled and said, My surname is Hu. You can just call me Mr. Hu. Nanfeng laughed. Okay. Old man Hu. Old Hu's face changed slightly, but he continued with a smile and said, Lord Nanfeng, please come to the tea house to chat. Our city lord is waiting for you inside. Just go in. I'm not stupid. Nanfeng shook his head and said, Don't you want to discuss cooperation with me? Let your city lord come out to talk. I have come all the way from Black Crow City. If your city lord is unwilling to even leave the door, then there is no need for us to cooperate. In the tea house, Baishui's city lord Baishan heard this and strode out. Nanfeng frowned slightly. He sensed a hint of crisis from the lord of Baishui's city. This guy is a level 43 warrior. You are Nanfeng? Baishan looked at Nanfeng with cold eyes. He said, You are strong, but not smart. How dare you come to such an obvious trap? You can become the leader of the chosen ones with such intelligence. It seems that you chosen ones are all morons. As Baishan was speaking, strong men came out one after another from the nearby streets. Nanfeng took a quick glance and couldn't help but be secretly shocked. In this small Baishui city, there are 9 powerful warriors above level 40. You know, in Linjiang City, which is adjacent to Baishui City, there are only 3 strong men above level 40, including the city lord. With so many experts here, it seems that the emperor is determined to kill us. The chosen ones. Nanfeng sighed in his heart, and then pretended to be panicked and said, Lord of Baishui City, what do you mean by this? Didn't we agree to discuss cooperation? Baishan and Hu Lao looked at each other, both speechless. The man in front of me doesn't seem to be very smart. He can't even see such an obvious trap. Is he really the leader of the chosen ones? Baishan whispered, The leader of the chosen ones cannot be such a fool. He is either fake or pretending. Lord City Lord, there is no need to think too much. Just catch him first. Old Hu said in a low voice. No matter whether he is fake or pretending, I have plenty of ways to deal with him after I catch him. Baishan nodded slightly and glanced at the others. The 7 strong men who surrounded Nanfeng attacked Nanfeng at the same time without saying a word. What happened to the cooperation you promised? Is this what you call cooperation? Nanfeng raised his hand and threw out 5 grenades, forcing back the attacking strong man. Then took out the Gatling gun and started shooting in circles. Duh. Gatling was like an angry beast, roaring horribly. The surrounding buildings collapsed within a few seconds. The Hu Tea House was given special attention by Nanfeng and was directly turned into ruins by the dense rain of golden bullets. Great freedom palm. Baishan flew into the sky, dodged the dense bullets, and slapped Nanfeng. Nanfeng didn't want to fight anymore, so he put away his Gatling gun and went into the alley. You can't escape. Baishan snorted coldly and struck down with a series of palm strikes. One after another, huge hands fell from the sky, smashing the buildings below into pieces. But they didn't even touch the corner of Nanfeng's clothes. In less than 2 minutes, the entire street was reduced to ruins. I don't know how many innocent people died at Baishan's hands. Help! Help! Run! There are strong men fighting in the city. Let's stay away. Who is so bold as to take action in the city? Come on! Report to the city lord. The city soon fell into chaos. The south wind doesn't fly into the sky, but goes to where there are crowds of people. In the sky, Baishan withdrew his palms with a gloomy face. The large number of residents on the street made him hesitate to take action. But those powerful people who came from the imperial capital didn't care about so much. What did the life and death of the residents of Baishui City have to do with them? They only care about whether they can catch Nanfeng or kill Nanfeng. Huge waves are surging. Violent flying knife. The flames are raging. Various skills attacked Nanfeng. But Nanfeng did not dare to be careless and ran towards the city center at full speed. Behind him, 9 strong men above level 40 are chasing closely. The backyard of surname Hu Tea House. Xiaonan jumped lightly and jumped over the 5 or 6 meter high wall and came to the backyard of the tea house. Nanfeng had just used a Gatling gun to blast the tea house into ruins. which made old Hu very angry. So he chased after him with his crutches. The backyard was very quiet at this time, and it seemed that there was no one there. With so much tea leaves, how much milk tea can be made? Xiaonan looked at the large areas of tea trees in the backyard, and wondered whether to move them all back. Forget it. Let me finish the task assigned by my brother first. Xiaonan looked around, and soon saw a thatched hut not far away. She noticed that there was someone in one of the rooms. This should be it. Xiaonan jumped to the front of the cabin and pushed open the door. A cold light flashed, and a sharp sword stretched out from the door, and pierced Xiaonan's neck. Swish! Xiaonan's fair neck was pierced by a sharp sword, and blood splattered everywhere. Humph! Mr. Hu is indeed very good at predicting things. Someone really did sneak into the backyard. The person in the room smiled coldly, and then wondered. Strange. Why is it a little girl? Moreover, she doesn't look like the chosen one. You've gone too far. Xiaonan took a step forward calmly, and the sword pierced deeper into her neck. The person in the room's face changed. Xiaonan's cute little face looked extremely weird in his eyes. Is this little girl a human? She was stabbed in the neck, but she didn't react at all? Xiaonan took another step forward. Blood gushing out. Do you know what it means to have a big hole in the neck? What does it mean? The person in the room swallowed his saliva and subconsciously took a step back. Xiaonan said seriously, it means when I drink milk tea, it will leak. Chapter 572. 9 people fighting against one and getting killed in return? Xiaonan raised his hands, and his dark green nails instantly stretched out to 2 meters long and pierced into the abdomen of the person in the room. Well, the man in the room groaned, quickly drew his sword and stepped back. After this brief fight, he already knew that he was no match for the little girl in front of him. This little girl is very strong. I have to report to Mr. Hu. The person in the house wanted to escape through the window, but in just a few seconds, the dark green corpse poison had already flowed through his blood vessels throughout his body. He stood there stiffly, drooling, with a dull expression. Xiaonan walked into the house calmly and glanced at the person who had just attacked her. Wipe your saliva. People who don't know you would think you are a fool. Hey hey. The man smiled foolishly and nodded, then reached out and rubbed his face, covering it with saliva. Xiaonan rolled his eyes in disgust, turned his head, and looked towards the middle of the house. There was a woman with a pale face hanging here, barely breathing and dying. Xiaonan took small steps forward and looked at the woman carefully. After a moment, Xiaonan sighed helplessly. Oh, I'm really not good at cursing. Xiaonan's voice woke Wang Mumu up. She opened her eyes weakly and looked at the little girl in front of her. Xiaonan. As a member of South City, Wang Mumu naturally knows Xiaonan. Xiaonan said somewhat embarrassedly, Big sister, I know nothing about curses, and can't remove the curse on you. Wang Mumu had already expected this result. She chuckled and said, It's okay. Just go. Otherwise, if the old man comes back, you will be in danger. Xiaonan tilted his head and pondered for a while. Even if I rescue you, you will still die if I can't break this curse. Then you should stay here for a while, and I will think of a solution when I get back. After saying that, Xiaonan didn't waste any time and came to the man she had controlled in the house, whispered a few words to him, and then strode out of the thatched hut. When he walked out of the door, Xiaonan saw a man in the distance, dragging a sheet and rushing towards him quickly. Xiaonan? Shenpan? They both spoke at the same time. Shenpan's tone was a little anxious. Xiaonan. Where is Mumu? Where is she now? Xiaonan pointed behind her, in the house. She was hung up. Where could she go? Oh! You didn't take her away. You scared me. Shenpan patted his chest and exhaled. Mumu and I are cursed and must take the antidote regularly. Otherwise, Xiaonan made a stop gesture. I already know it. You don't need to repeat it again. Shenpan's train of thought was interrupted. He paused for a long time before speaking. Mumu and I will stay here for the time being and find a way to break the curse. You don't have to worry about us. Let's go to the city center quickly. Nanshan seems to be in danger there. Xiaonan looked towards the center of Baishui City. Over there, light and shadows intertwined. Energy surged, and the fight was extremely intense. Xiaonan could feel that Nafeng was not in danger of life, but he still wanted to go over and check it out just in case. I'm leaving then. Are you sure it's okay for you to stay here? Xiaonan looked at Shenpan. Shenpan nodded solemnly. Don't worry. I am still useful to them. They won't kill me. Okay then. I'm really leaving. Xiaonan said, as he leapt into the air and quickly rushed to the center of Baishui City. Boom! Crash! The closer we got to the city center, the louder the explosions became. The terrifying energy surged, causing all kinds of wood chips, stones, and dust to fly all over the sky. From a distance, Xiaonan could hear Nanfeng's pretentious and arrogant voice. 9 people fighting 1, and I killed 2 of them. Do you know how to play? Huh? Speak. City center. Nanfeng himself also suffered a lot of injuries, and his health points have dropped below half. But it was obvious that the opponent suffered even greater losses. Under Nanfeng's terrifying firepower, 2 people were directly killed. This also scared the remaining 7 people, and they all became fully alert and did not dare to take it lightly. Bai Shan looked at the ruins in the city. A trace of anger appeared on his face. He stared at Nanfeng fiercely. I admit that you are indeed very strong, but you are now at the end of your strength. Right? Tonight, I will definitely take your life. Nanfeng laughed while holding a laser cannon. You are very considerate. Yes, I really can't hold on any longer. But if I counterattack before I die, it should be no problem to kill 2 or 3 more. Who of you wants to die first? The remaining few people who were besieging Nanfeng had solemn expressions, and no one wanted to be the first to stand out. Never mind. Let me do it. Old Hu took 2 steps forward, stuck his walking stick on the ground, and looked at Nanfeng. You demolished my tea house, so pay with your life. As he spoke, Mr. Hu's expression became extremely solemn and dignified. He murmured in a low and strange tone with a pious look on his face. Call out. Suddenly, a pitch-black object flew from behind Mr. Hu and hit the back of his head accurately. Ah! Old Hu screamed and looked back suddenly, only to see half a brick on the ground, stained with blood. Who threw the brick? Mr. Hu roared. Bai Shan and others looked solemn. They didn't notice where the brick came from. There are still experts in the city. At the moment when they were distracted, Nanfeng had already swiftly taken out the teleportation array and placed it under his feet. He wants to escape. Hurry up. Great free palm. Bai Shan was the first to react. He slapped out with his palm with great force, and the wind from his palm was so fierce that it attacked Nanfeng. But Nanfeng had already activated the teleportation array, and a silver-white light lit up. Hand over Shenpan before dawn, and I can spare your lives. Otherwise, don't blame me for coming back and killing people. After leaving these harsh words, Nanfeng teleported away in a flash. Bai Shan snorted coldly. He even got away with this. What are you doing? The powerful men who came from the imperial capital ignored Bai Shan's plan and dispersed with gloomy faces. Mr. Hu covered the back of his head and looked around, his face full of anger. Who threw the brick? Come out if you have the guts. In the ruins in the distance, Xiaonan threw the remaining half brick on the ground and skipped out of the city. This bad guy ran away by himself without waiting for me. When I get back, I will criticize him severely. Well, speaking of which, how can a coward like me be the city lord? I, Xiaonan, should be the city lord of South City. At this time, Nanfeng, who had already returned to Black Crow City, could never have imagined that Xiaonan was already planning to take over his city lord. Oh my god! These people were really cruel. Luckily I ran fast. If I was a second slower, I would have vomited 200 milliliters more blood. Inside the Black Crow City Lord's mansion, Nanfeng, covered in blood, ran downstairs at a rapid pace. Sui Han, little Nani, come and give me some milk, or I'll be done. By the way, please bring me a cup of milk tea to wake me up. Chapter 573 Shenpan's Value. Baishui City, Mr. Hu Tea House. Old Hu returned here with an angry face, and looking at the mess in front of him, he couldn't help but reveal a look of heartache. This tea house was opened by his father. Although it is shabby and small, it records a lot of memories for Mr. Hu. But at this moment, this place full of memories has been shattered by the Gatling wind from the south. Leader of the Chosen Ones, I will definitely kill you. Old Hu gritted his teeth and walked to the backyard, looking at the thatched house not far away. At the door of the thatched hut, Shenpan, with a haggard look on his face, was squatting on the ground, sharpening a knife seriously. You're back? Have you completed the task I assigned to you? Hu Lao walked over with a gloomy face. Before Judge Shen could speak, Mr. Hu saw 2 bodies lying in the thatched hut. One of them had a horrified look on his face, with dense knife marks all over his body, and his death was extremely miserable. The other one had a dazed look on his face. His skin was dark green, and he looked as if he had been poisoned by some kind of poison. Mr. Hu narrowed his eyes slightly. The poisoned person was the one he arranged to monitor here. His name was Lu Jin. How did Lu Jin die? Did you kill him? Hu Lao said coldly. Shen Pan shook his head and continued sharpening the knife. I don't know. He was already dead when I came back. Oh! Old Hu looked inside the house and saw that the dying woman was still hanging inside and had not been rescued. Look into my eyes. Boss Hu shouted. You just lied. Shen Pan shuddered slightly and looked up at Mr. Hu. You just said that Hu Jin was already dead when you came back. No. I feel like you are lying. Old Hu sneered and said, Tell me. Did you kill Hu Jin? Shen Pan's eyes were calm and he shook his head and said, I didn't kill him. Old Hu stared at Shen Pan with cold eyes. But what surprised him was that Shen Pan did not lie. He really didn't kill Hu Jin. Seeing some confusion in Hu Lao's eyes, Shen Pan added, When I came back, Hu Jin was only breathing his last breath. And he died not long after. Old Hu nodded slightly. He didn't feel that Shen Pan was lying. This sentence was true. Did you see who killed Hu Jin? Hu Lao asked. Shen Pan paused while sharpening the knife and remained silent. I'm asking you a question. Hu Lao used the cane in his hand to hit Shen Pan's back hard. Did you see who killed Hu Jin? Shen Pan groaned and said in a trembling voice. No. No. When I came back, there was no one else here except Hu Jin and Wang Mumu. Xiaonan is Nanfeng's pet. His true form is still a zombie and should not be considered a human. I said I didn't see anyone else, so I'm not lying. Right? Shen Pan thought to himself. He bet right. Mr. Hu did not realize that he was lying. Humph. Next time I ask you a question, you should answer it quickly to avoid some physical pain. Mr. Hu snorted coldly. He looked at Hu Jin's body. The dark green skin looked a little strange, so he didn't dare to get too close. In comparison, the other corpse that had been chopped into pieces looked much more pleasing to the eye. Is this person the chosen one? Mr. Hu pointed at the body of Kaido Tsushima. Shen Pan nodded, yes. Well done. Old Hu began to praise. Go. Drag these two bodies to the yard and bury them. And then fertilize my tea trees. Shen Pan didn't waste any time. He dragged the two bodies into the yard, dug a big pit in the tea tree forest, threw Tsushima Kaido and Hu Jin into it, and then buried them. There is a fresh fragrance of tea leaves wafting through the tea trees. But if you smell it carefully, you can also smell a faint stench of decay. Obviously, there are countless bodies buried in this yard. No wonder the tea trees here are so vibrant. After burying the body, Shen Pan quickly walked to Mr. Hu, stretched out his hand and said, My antidote. Mr. Hu laughed, Antidote? Do you think I will let you survive tonight? Shen Pan looked at him coldly. You want to kill me? I call the leader of the chosen ones for you. You are incompetent and can't catch him. What does it have to do with me? Mr. Hu, humph. Don't think I don't know. You must have informed the leader of the chosen ones. Otherwise, how would he know there was an ambush here? You don't believe me? Shen Pan stretched out 4 fingers and said, I swear. I definitely didn't tell the leader of the chosen ones. Otherwise, I will be struck by lightning. Old Hu frowned slightly. He realized that Shen Pan was not lying. He really did not inform the leader of the chosen ones. Shen Pan sneered in his heart. First of all, the chosen ones have no leader at all. Only the lords of each city. Secondly, if we really have to say who is the leader of the chosen ones, then Long Wudi is more suitable for this identity. In the end, Shen Pan really didn't inform Nanfeng. Nor did he tell him that there was an ambush in Baishui City. He only told Xiao Luo, Cheng Yamo, and Xiao Angran. These 3 people had nothing to do with the title of the leader of the chosen ones. He didn't lie in this sentence. So how could Mr. Hu realize that he was lying? I don't care whether you've informed on me or not. You're of no use to me now. Old Hu didn't care about anything else. He swung his crutch and knocked Shen Pan away. At dawn, you and your woman will die. Enjoy your last moments. Mr. Hu didn't care whether Pan Shen would escape or not. Very few people understand what a curse is. And there are no more than 10 people in this world who can break his curse. There are not even a few level 40 among the group of chosen ones. So it is even more impossible for them to lift his curse. So it didn't matter to him whether Shen Pan ran away or not. Because in Mr. Hu's eyes, Shen Pan was already a dead man. I still have value. Shen Pan got up from the ground and said in a deep voice, as long as I am alive, Nanfeng will definitely come to save me. And I can also ask him out. Mr. Hu smiled coldly. Do you think he is a fool? He knew that this was a trap. But he still came to save you? Who do you think you are? Shen Pan, How do you know if you don't try? As long as I'm alive, Nanfeng will be afraid and won't dare to attack Baishui City. But if I die, do you believe that he will lead an army of 100,000 chosen ones to attack the outside of Baishui City early tomorrow morning? Mr. Hu was silent for a while. Mr. Hu, are you so confident that he will come to save you? Shen Pan, of course. He treats me as a friend. Mr. Hu, you are such a beast. You even sell out your friends just to save your own life. Shen Pan, from the moment he drove me out of South City, I no longer considered him a friend. Boss Hu laughed, ha 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 ha. Okay. From now on, you just follow me. Take the antidote. Mr. Hu threw out 2 antidotes, and Shen Pan quickly caught them. He stuffed one of them into his mouth and held the other tightly in his hand. Mr. Hu looked at Shen Pan coldly. Find a way to get Nanfeng out again. Well, let's meet outside the city this time, so that we won't be restricted if a fight breaks out. I'm going to discuss the battle plan with the city lord now. This time, we must kill him. By the way, where did Gung Wu go after not being seen for a day? If he were here tonight, Nanfeng would definitely die. Shen Pan looked at Hu Lao's receding back, opened the panel, and sent a message to Nanfeng. Come and pick us up. I'm escaping from Whitewater City with Mumu. Chapter 574, Method to Remove the Curse. Late at night, in the Black Crow City Lord's mansion, Nanfeng, who had just fought in Baishui City, convened an emergency meeting. Almost everyone is here. Let's start the meeting now. Nanfeng put the milk tea on the table and said seriously, things are a bit difficult with Shen Pan now. We must first find a way to remove the curse on him. Does anyone have any good ideas? Wang Yuanming spoke first. Xiaonan can't break the curse either? Xiaonan? She only knows how to drink milk tea now. And she can't handle such high-end things as curses. Nanfeng said as he picked up the milk tea and took a sip. However, this milk tea was indeed delicious. Was it because of the addition of technology and hard work? Yuran, that's not possible. We at Mishu and Nancheng operate with integrity and absolutely do not contain any additives. Suzerain said in a deep voice. I asked the Tang family in the evening, but they don't know much about curses and can't help us. When these words were spoken, everyone felt a little troubled. If even a family as big as the Tang family can't be dealt with, then how many people in this world can break this curse? I think the person who tied the bell must be the one to untie it. Xiao Luo said, as he was carving the wood, let's just tie up that old man who and stab him every 10 minutes until he breaks the curse. What do you think? Nanfeng looked at Xiao Luo, then looked at the Ultraman figure he was carving in his hand, and asked, are you the real one? No. I'm Xiao Luo. Xiao Luo's clone replied calmly. What the H? L is the Supreme Calm Edition. Isn't it Xiao Luo's calm personality? You added the word supreme yourself. Right? Xiao Luo added, I am currently hunting ferocious beasts in the ancient forest and have no time to come to the meeting. Okay. Xiao Luo is so awesome now that he even invites his younger brothers to attend meetings. Nanfeng murmured, kidnapping Mr. Hu is indeed an idea. But it is very risky. Let's think of other solutions first. Does anyone have any suggestions? Curses are similar to black magic. Right? Cheng Mo said. Isn't there a Taoist priest named Xuanqing in World 3? I'll go ask him if he can solve it. Wu Yuansheng, now that you mention it, I suddenly remembered that I know a friend from Yajiang who can cast a curse. Maybe he can also lift the curse. I'll go ask him. Huang Yuanming, by the way. There is also a priest named Amos. He might have a solution. Nanfeng, okay. We'll use all the means at home and abroad. I don't believe that we can't deal with a small curse. At this time, Sui Han, who had been silent, suddenly said, after I reach level 40, I should be able to remove the curse on Shen Pan. Oh! Our little Nani also has some tricks? Everyone's eyes were focused on Sui Han. Sui Han said softly, I met Shen Pan tonight, and my purification technique was effective on him. It's just that I'm too weak now, so I can't purify it completely. Once I reach level 40, I'll definitely be able to do it. Nanfeng, what level are you now? Sui Han, level 36, almost 37. Sui Han didn't have much combat power, so he could only follow the main force to gain some experience. It was not slow for him to reach level 36. Nanfeng immediately clapped his hands and said, Suzerain, you arrange shifts for the brothers. Let them take turns, and bring the little nanny to level 40 as quickly as possible. This impromptu meeting ended quickly, and everyone in South City began to get busy again. 2 a.m. In the ancient forest, When the young wet nurse Suihan was teleported over, Chung Imo and Xiao Ren were already waiting for her here. Chung Imo, from 2 to 6 o'clock. The two of us will help you upgrade. After 6 o'clock, Wu Yuancheng and Su Ming will help you upgrade. Is that okay? Suihan nodded slightly. Okay. Let you experience the rocket-like upgrade speed. Chung Imo circled above the forest on his flying sword. In this extremely high-profile manner, he attracted a large number of ferocious beasts from the surrounding areas. Xiao Ren. It's time to get started. Get ready to take action. Xiao Ren charged into the group of ferocious beasts with a spear in hand. Like a swimming dragon. Suihan was not idle either. He added various buffs to the two of them, which made their strength soar, and their efficiency in killing monsters increase dramatically. Coincidentally, I also took this opportunity to break through level 40 in one fell swoop. Xiao Ren shouted loudly, and went in and out of the group of ferocious beasts 7 times, killing them with great pleasure. They didn't notice that there was a colorful giant snake coiled on a branch not far away, staring at the 3 of them with a sinister look. This is a level 40 ferocious beast colored python. His colored python spit out its tongue, and its sturdy body moved forward, slowly approaching Suihan and the others. Suddenly, a cold light flashed. Before the colored python could react to what was happening, the huge snake head was cut off with a single knife. The snake's head rolled twice on the ground, still spitting out its tongue. At this moment, its sinister eyes also saw the snake killer, a 2-legged beast holding an electric dagger. The colored python had extremely strong vitality. Even after its head was chopped off, it did not die on the spot. Instead, it continued to twist its body, trying to wrap around Xiao Luo and strangle him to death. But the colored python in its peak state was no match for Xiao Luo. How could it strangle Xiao Luo in its current half-dead state? Xiao Luo jumped back to create some distance, and shouted to the 3 people in the distance, "Come on! This python is not dead yet. Each of you can kill it and share some experience." It was only then that Suihan and the others discovered that there was actually a level 40 ferocious beast here. "Luo Gu, why are you here?" "Haha. Of course I'm here to be your bodyguard." Chung Imo flew over on his flying sword and stabbed the colored python twice. Xiao Ren also quickly fired 2 shots. Suihan raised the golden staff and hit the snake's head for 5 minutes, finally killing the dying colored python. Swish! A warm feeling surged in his heart. Suihan successfully reached level 37 and gained a lot of experience. "Thank you, Luo Gu," Suihan said softly. "You're welcome. You're welcome. We are all family. Why should we be polite?" Xiao Luo said with a smile. Suihan frowned slightly. You are not the real me, right?" "Yes. I am Xiao Luo, super supreme passionate version." Xiao Luo's clone laughed and said, "My real self is also nearby. He was afraid that you would be in danger, so he asked me to come over and keep an eye on you." What the L is the super extreme passion edition. Compared with the supreme calm version, there is an extra super, which really adds drama to oneself. Xiao Luo carried the 7-star thunder on his shoulder and jumped onto the tree. "You continue to hunt the ferocious beasts. With me here, no ferocious beast can hurt you." Chapter 575 Linjiang City Management Treaty. In the ancient forest, a group of masters from South City were leveling up with Suihan in full swing. On the other side, Suzerain brought a large group of brothers to Linjiang City to continue taking over the city. Ever since the great battle in Linjiang City a few days ago, the residents in the city have been in a panic, fearing that the evil invaders will massacre the city. Those wealthy and powerful people in the city have already fled Linjiang City with their families. Those who are still staying in the city are either weak, or have no money, or all their businesses are in Linjiang City, and they are reluctant to leave. Now they can only pray silently in their hearts that these evil invaders are not as evil as the legend says, and that they can be spared. At this time, many residents in the streets and alleys of Linjiang City were talking about this matter. "Have you heard? Those evil invaders came back yesterday and are now in the city lord's mansion, counting the legacy left by the previous city lord. Do I need to hear about this?" This matter has spread all over the streets and alleys. Even the baby next door, who is still breastfeeding, knows about it. Alas, if I had known this the day before yesterday, I would have run away with them, and wouldn't have to stay here and worry. Run? Where can you run to? You have no money and no strength. Are you going to be fed to the beasts if you leave the city? That's better than staying here and waiting to die. In the streets and alleys, people were talking, and their words were full of worry. Just then, A child's loud voice came from a distance and spread throughout the street. Linjiang Daily. The freshly published Linjiang Daily. Only 10 copper coins per copy. Come and buy it. The kid was only about 11 or 12 years old. He was wearing a thin vest and three-quarter pants with holes all over them, and a pair of tattered straw sandals on his feet. He was running down the street with a runny nose and a newspaper held high in his hand. As he ran, he asked passers-by around him, "Handsome guy, would you like a newspaper? Beautiful sister, please give me a newspaper." The freshly published Linjiang Daily. This is what Suzerain taught him. When you see a man, call him handsome. And when you see a woman, call her beautiful. This way, the newspapers will sell better. What is Linjiang Daily? It costs 10 copper coins a copy. So expensive? In a tea house on the street, a young man in fancy clothes called out to the kids selling newspapers, "Hey, little brat over there, come here." Upon hearing this, the little boy wiped his nose with his sleeve and quickly ran into the tea house. "I am not a little kid. I am a little boy selling newspapers." Okay, little brother." The young man was not angry, but asked, "What is this Linjiang Daily in your hand?" Seeing that everyone in the tea house was looking at him, the kid raised his head and said loudly, "This is a newspaper. The newspaper released by the new city lord. It contains the latest Linjiang City Management Treaty released by the city lord, which is very important." The kid didn't know what the Linjiang City Management Treaty meant. He had never been to school. He just repeated Suzerain's instructions word for word. Linjiang City Management Treaty? The young man was shocked. Was this issued by the invaders? Hurry up and give me a copy so I can see what is written on it. Upon hearing this, Brother Xiaohai smiled happily. Okay, handsome guy. It's only 10 copper coins. People in the tea house started to speak. 10 copper coins? It's so expensive. Are you trying to rob me? How dare those invaders sell a piece of torn paper for 10 copper coins? They are truly heartless. Alas, our future days will be difficult. When the little brother heard these words, he suddenly became anxious and quickly explained, "This is not a piece of torn paper. It is a newspaper, which came from the distant Liyun city. The Linjiang City Management Treaty released this time includes various benefits, such as tax subsidies and minimum living allowances. You can get this information for only 10 copper coins, which is not a loss at all." "Oh, taxes?" When the young man in gorgeous clothes heard these two words, he immediately became interested. He took out 10 copper coins from his pocket and threw them to the kid. "Come on, little brat, give me a newspaper." The little boy handed the newspaper to the young man with a smile. "Are you crazy? Spending 10 copper coins to buy a piece of torn paper?" "Hush, don't talk. Look at what's written in this newspaper." Everyone was quiet and let Boss Gu read the contents of the newspaper to us. The young man selling newspapers was named Guzhou. He was in the clothing business and was quite famous in Linjiang City. He nodded to everyone, opened the newspaper, and began to read. Today's interesting story. Uncle Wang from the South City secretly watched Widow Li taking a bath. Everyone in the tea house twitched their lips. What the H? I was going on. The kid quickly said, "Handsome guy, you read it the wrong way. That is the last page." "Oh." Guzhou calmly turned the newspaper to the first page and read again. Today's headlines. The Lord of Linjiang City promulgated the Linjiang City Management Treaty. The main contents of this treaty are the following 18 points. First, tax reduction and exemption. From now on, all major businesses in the city only need to register in the city lord's mansion with this newspaper to enjoy a year of tax exemption. As soon as this first treaty came out, everyone in the tea house exclaimed in surprise. WTF? 1 year tax exemption? Really? Are these invaders crazy? Do they know how much tax revenue Linjiang City collects in a year? I thought the invaders would exploit us, but I didn't expect they were here to relieve us. Guzhou was also very excited. He was originally a businessman, but the previous city lord collected too much tax. 60% of his profits every year were used to honor the previous city lord, which also led to the fact that his clothing store could not grow bigger. If he can really be exempted from taxes for 1 year, he is confident that he can open 3 more chain stores this year. Everyone, please be quiet and let Boss Gu continue reading. Guzhou suppressed his excitement and continued reading. Second, minimum living security policy. For residents in the city who are too old and have no income, 200 copper coins are distributed every month. Third, medical insurance. Residents in the city can have a free physical examination at the clinic once a month. Fourth, health management. All businesses tried out the 3 guarantees policy in front of their doors, built a large number of public toilets, and imposed a fine of 50 copper coins on those found urinating or defecating in public, with their tools confiscated. 5th, personality activation? What does this mean? I don't understand. Forget it. Let's look at the next one first. 6th. 7th. Article 18. Any behavior that is immoral, such as peeping at widows bathing, is prohibited in the entire city. Violators will be paraded through the streets. Each of these treaties is beneficial to the residents of the city. Everyone in the tea house looked at each other in disbelief. Could those evil invaders be so kind? The kid wiped his nose and said loudly, "You business owners, hurry up and go to the city lord's mansion to register so you can get tax exemption. There are already a lot of people there now." Cujo could no longer hold back his excitement. He picked up the newspaper and bowed to everyone. "I'll go to the city lord's mansion first. Everyone, wait for my news." "Boss Goo, don't go. This must be a trap." "Yes. Those invaders wanted to trick us into coming over and kill us." "Shinjin, isn't it just a matter of a word for the invaders to kill us? Is it necessary to make such a fuss?" Cujo ignored everyone's dissuasion and ran quickly towards the city lord's mansion. Chapter 576. Fight headaches with headaches, and defeat magic with magic. Half an hour later, Cujo returned to the tea house with a smile on his face. "Dear friends, what the newspaper said is true. It is really tax-free," Cujo said loudly. "And if you register now, you can also receive a beautiful small gift." Cujo held up the strange-looking wood sculpture in his hand. "This is the wood sculpture. I heard it is called Ultraman figure. It is exclusively produced by the chosen ones. As long as you put this figure in the shop, you don't have to pay tax." There were quite a few people doing business in the tea house. When they heard the words, they all cheered and stood up to rush to the city lord's mansion. "Hey handsome guys, wait a moment. We need a newspaper to register at the city lord's mansion." The little boy stood at the door and shouted, "I still have 99 newspapers here. First come first served. No wonder this newspaper is so expensive. It turns out it is tax-free. Come on. Give me one. I want one too." Soon, all of Xiahage's newspapers were sold out. He wiped his nose, held a bag of copper coins tightly in his arms, and ran quickly towards the city lord's mansion. The side door of the city lord's mansion. The little boy ran here breathlessly. The guards had already received Suzerain's instructions and did not stop him. They let the little boy enter the city lord's mansion. Brother Xiaohai came to the meeting room and found Suzerain, who was handling official business. "Lord Mayor, all my newspapers are sold out." As he said that, the little boy handed a bag of copper coins to Suzerain. "Can I take another 1,000 newspapers?" This morning, when Suzerain just arrived in Linjiang City, he saw a little boy squatting on the street begging for food. Seeing that the kid looked sneaky and had the potential to be a salesman, he asked him to sell newspapers. Suzerain looked at him with a smile. "I asked you to sell a newspaper for 2 copper coins. Why did you sell it for 10 copper coins?" The little boy said timidly, "Because I am the only one in the city selling newspapers. This way I can help the city lord make more money." "City lord? I know I was wrong. Haha. Some business acumen." Suzerain was not angry, but gave him another 1,000 newspapers. "Here are 1,000 newspapers. I don't care how you sell them, but you have to give me 100,000 copper coins before dark. If you can do this, from now on, Linjiang Daily will be sold by you, and I will only charge you 1 copper coin for each newspaper. But if it's less than 100,000 copper coins, I'll find someone else to sell newspapers. Do you understand?" The little brother was shocked when he heard this. 100,000 copper coins? Doesn't that mean a newspaper would have to sell for 100 copper coins to meet this requirement? But the little boy thought about it for a moment, nodded vigorously and agreed, "Don't worry, Lord City Lord. I promise to complete the task." With his thin body, he stumbled out of the city lord's mansion holding a large bundle of newspapers. After Suzerain watched him leave, he sent a message to Huang Yuanming. "Huang Yuanming, please keep an eye on this kid for me, in case anyone has any bad intentions." "Huang Yuanming, I'm busy. I'm choosing a location for my foot massage parlor. You should go find Luogu. He has so many clones. It would be a waste if you don't use them." Suzerain had no choice but to send another message to Xiao Luo. "Xiao Luo, okay. I'll send a clone over." In the ancient forest, Xiao Luo closed his eyes and sensed it, then frowned slightly. Linjiang City is a bit far from Xiao Luo, and his clone cannot go that far. We can only move towards Linjiang City. Xiao Luo himself is now a Wi-Fi signal tower, and all his clones are spread out with him as the center. Xiao Luo was protecting Su Yihan and others. Xiao Luo is in charge of Black Crow City. Xiao Luo was heading to Linjiang City. Xiao Luo and Xiao Luo groped their way into the depths of the ancient forest, trying to find out what was going on inside. The remaining clones all surrounded Xiao Luo, constantly searching for ferocious beasts above level 40. In a sense, Xiao Luo's upgrade efficiency should be the fastest among all the chosen ones, if there are enough fierce beasts above level 40. Unfortunately, there is no if. Even in the ancient forest where ferocious beasts roam rampant, ferocious beasts above level 40 are extremely rare. If you want to level up, you still have to kill people faster. In the grove outside Baishui City, while everyone else was busy with their own things, Nanfeng received Shenpan's message and came to Baishui City again. Halfway through the journey, Nanfeng first found Xiaonan and met up with him. When Xiaonan heard that they had to go to Baishui City again, he burst into tears and rolled on the ground in anger. Nanfeng coaxed Xiaonan for a long time, and finally took out a large pot of milk tea to coax him into submission. Xiaonan, do you know anyone who knows more about curses? Can he remove the curse on Shenpan? Nanfeng asked. I know. Xiaonan Baofeng inhaled and took a big sip of milk tea, then slowly spoke under Nanfeng's expectant eyes. But they have all been dead for tens of thousands of years. Damn. It was all in vain. Nanfeng frowned and murmured, this curse is really troublesome. I can't kill Mr. Hu. It's really a headache. Actually, I have a solution, Xiaonan said. We can fight headaches with headaches. Nanfeng was puzzled. What does it mean? Xiaonan chuckled and said, brother, who was the last person who gave you a headache? Nanfeng thought about it for a moment, and suddenly raised his eyebrows. You mean? Xiaonan, that's right. You go find Sikong Bushua and ask him to hypnotize the person who cast the curse, and then remove the curse from Shenpan. Isn't that the problem? Nanfeng suddenly realized, oh, you are talking about Sikong Bushua? I thought you were talking about Emperor Zoom. However, Sikong Bushua's words. Nanfeng raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a wicked smile. This is really a magical idea. Hypnosis and curse. Which of these two abilities is more powerful? Which one is more troublesome? Nanfeng would choose hypnosis without hesitation, because Sikong Bushua has 10,000 ways to hypnotize Mr. Hu. And Mr. Hu may not even be able to see Sikong Bushua. Asking Sikong Bushua for help is really a good idea. But Sikong Bushua is an unstable bomb after all, and asking him to take action might result in a greater price being paid. This solution can only be kept as a backup option, and used when there is really no other choice. We'll talk about Sikong Bushua later. Let's go to the grove outside the city to meet Shenpan first. There will definitely be more people ambushing me this time. Xiaonan, you must protect me well. It makes me angry when I talk about this. Xiaonan rolled his eyes. You run so fast. Do you still need me to protect you? Chapter 577 God is angry. After experiencing countless crises, Nanfeng is now really good at escaping. Once he finds that something is slightly wrong, Nanfeng will turn around and run away. Of course, Nanfeng is now strong enough and rarely needs to escape. Even in a situation like last night, when he was besieged by 9 people, Nanfeng was able to kill 2 of them, and this was when he didn't use his full strength. Because if old Hu was killed, Shenpan would die with him. So Nanfeng never dared to use his ultimate move, for fear of accidentally killing old Hu. As the lord of a city, I can't always run away. That would be embarrassing. Nanfeng touched Xiaonan's head and said earnestly, so, today I decided to let you meet Shenpan, and I will cover you from behind. I do not want. Xiaonan took a sip of milk tea and refused decisively. Brother, as the lord of a city, you should have the responsibility as a city lord. You can't let me do everything. Upon hearing this, Nanfeng had no choice but to say, okay. You wait here for me. I'll go over and take a look at the situation first. Xiaonan nodded in agreement. Nanfeng took out 2 extra large cups of milk tea from his backpack and handed them to Xiaonan. Xiaonan's eyes curved with joy. I'm leaving now. If you encounter danger later, remember to call me. Nanfeng waved his hand and ran away quickly. Remember to call you? Remember to save you? Xiaonan muttered something but didn't think too much about it. He squatted on the ground, drinking milk tea and watching the ants move. Half an hour later, Xiaonan, who was a little bored, slapped a fly to death and threw it on the path that the ants had to pass. He watched with great interest as the ants carried the fly back to the ant nest. An hour later, Xiaonan, who was becoming increasingly bored, slapped to death a passing level 8 beast poisonous ladybug and threw the ladybug's corpse at the entrance of the ant nest. The ants went crazy in an instant, biting the ladybug in big bites. The level of this group of ants is only level 1, and a small number of them are ordinary creatures without levels. Some ants could not withstand the energy contained in the ladybug's corpse and exploded to death. But there were also a small number of strong ants, who broke through to level 2 after devouring the ladybug meat. These ants that had broken through regarded Xiaonan as a god and kept circling around her, as if they were completing some great ritual. Xiaonan took a sip of milk tea, thought for a moment, then stretched out his fingernail and poked a weak ant to death. Ants rely on the smell emitted from their bodies to convey information. After poking an ant to death, Xiaonan also understood the meaning of these smells. The ants circling around her were saying, "Great God, our wise queen ant, we are willing to sacrifice 100,000 ant eggs and ask you to give us more food." Xiaonan rolled her eyes. What use did she have for ant eggs? She didn't raise ants. How come my brother has been gone for so long and hasn't come back yet? Xiaonan raised his head and looked in the direction where Nifeng left. Did he encounter any danger? That shouldn't be the case. Xiaonan scratched his head and was about to go over to take a look when he heard footsteps through his tactical headset. Who is it? Xiaonan could sense Nanfeng's location. He was quite a distance away from here, so the footsteps were not from Nafeng. Who would come here in this remote place? While Xiaonan was thinking, the sound of footsteps became more frequent. Very faint footsteps could be heard not only in front, but also on the left, right, and even behind. Xiaonan's childish face was twisted into a ball. Even if she was dumb, she could react at this moment and realize that she was surrounded. This bastard brother. Xiaonan puffed up his cheeks and stomped angrily at the ant nest. The ant nest collapsed and the ants ran around in chaos. The gods are angry. Everyone run. I understand. God doesn't like ant eggs. We should sacrifice the beautiful women of our ant tribe. Hurry. Rescue the queen ant. It is still in the ant nest. Xiaonan walked away from the group of talkative ants and walked forward for a distance. Then he saw a man with a pale face walking out of the woods. Xiaonan? The pale-faced man was Shenpan. He looked at Xiaonan in confusion and asked, "Why are you here again? Where is Nanshan? Why didn't he come?" Xiaonan replied angrily, "Are you unhappy to see me? Then go back. What's wrong with you?" Shenpan was a little confused. Didn't the god of the south say he would wait for me here? Seeing Xiaonan staring at him unkindly, Shenpan didn't dare to say anything more and quickly got to the point. "Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. I have something to give you." As he spoke, Shenpan suddenly took 2 steps forward, approached Xiaonan, grabbed Xiaonan's hand, and shouted loudly, "Someone come. I caught her." Xiaonan? Xiaonan was slightly stunned. Just as he was wondering, more than a dozen strong men suddenly rushed out from the surrounding woods. And they are all strong men above level 40. On the top of a distant mountain, Nifeng was holding a laser cannon with a frown on his face. "There are more people than last night? Why are you guys here to arrest me instead of going to Blackwater City to get Long Woody? Do you think I'm easy to bully?" Nifeng resisted the urge to attack and watched the scene silently. In the woods, Xiaonan, who was already angry, became even more furious. He threw Shenpan 200 meters away with his backhand. "You are so good, Shenpan. You actually betrayed Nansheng." Xiaonan put one hand on her waist and held a tea of milk in the other, and said in a tender voice, "Today I am going to clean up the mess for my brother." In the woods on the left, a man in heavy armor walked out. "Your brother? Who is your brother?" 200 meters away, Shenpan coughed up a mouthful of blood and slowly got up from the ground. "His brother is Nanfeng, the current lord of Black Crow City. If you capture this little girl, it means you have captured Nanfeng's weakness." Old Hu stared at Shenpan's eyes for a while and sneered, "Lord Prince of Jinan. He is telling the truth." The man in heavy armor nodded slightly and said, "In that case, let's take this little girl back first." He stared at Xiaonan and looked her up and down. Sneering, "Only level 30? Nefeng asked you to meet Shenpan, but he didn't want you to go back alive, right?" Upon hearing this, Xiaonan puffed up his cheeks and said through gritted teeth, "You bastard brother. You bad brother. You let me come to such a dangerous place alone. You are so bad. Little sister, why don't you follow me? I've always wanted a sister." Prince Jinan smiled and said, "Your brother treats you like this? He just doesn't treat you as a human being." Xiaonan gave a weird smile. He. Because I am indeed not a human. As he spoke, Xiaonan stuffed a colorful stone into his mouth. Her aura suddenly surged, and was comparable to that of the Prince of Jinan. Not far away, the ants on the ground were frightened by the horrifying breath, and fell asleep one after another. Before they died, the ants' dust-sized brains had only one thought. The Lord God is angry. Chapter 578. The curse is lifted. Run! Even Na Feng didn't fully understand how strong Xiaonan was. At first glance, Xiaonan is just a rookie in his 30s. But if a fight really breaks out, even the Emperor wouldn't dare to say that he could definitely defeat Xiaonan. Add to that her terrifying immortality talent. Wanting to kill Xiaonan. Maybe only God in this world can do it. Oh! Did you hide your strength just now? The King of Jinan's expression became serious. It seems that I was careless. Overlord Thorn. As he spoke, King Jinan rushed toward Xiaonan with the Overlord's spear in his hand. Xiaonan kicked his legs and jumped into the air with a whoosh. Shouting, I'm going to use my ultimate move. Boom! 2 huge fireballs, one gold and one blue, fell from the sky and smashed down with great momentum. When Shen Pan heard Xiaonan say that he was going to use his ultimate move, he immediately ran for his life. But when he saw that Mr. Hu was still standing there, unaware of the danger, he hurried back, carried Mr. Hu on his shoulders, and then turned around and ran away. What are you doing? Hu Lao was just stunned for a moment before Shen Pan carried him away. He raised his crutches and prepared to hit Shen Pan twice. Shen Pan shouted angrily, I am saving your life. This statement is absolutely true. But at the same time, Shen Pan was also saving his own life. The position where Mr. Hu was just now was very close to the center of the battle. If the 2 big fireballs that Xiaonan spit out explode, will this old man still be alive? You are talking nonsense. A loud explosion interrupted Mr. Hu's words. Old Hu looked towards the center of the battlefield with a dull look in his eyes. The violent energy fluctuation still made Old Hu terrified even from such a distance. Was this done by that teenage girl? With such terrible power, even Lord Jinan King would not dare to withstand this blow. Right? Who is this little girl? Mr. Hu's heart was filled with confusion and shock. Who was that little girl just now? Old Hu asked in surprise. Shen Pan answered while running wildly. Didn't I tell you? She is Nanfeng's sister. Mr. Hu wanted to ask more questions, but Pan Shen slammed on the brakes and stopped. Less than 50 meters in front of Shen Pan, Na Feng was holding a laser cannon and looking at the 2 of them with cold eyes. South wind. Old Hu murmured in a low voice and hid silently behind Shen Pan. Shen Pan gripped the dagger tightly with his backhand and stared at Na Feng cautiously. The 2 sides were deadlocked here, and the atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Shen Pan, I risked my life to save you. But I didn't expect that you would team up with outsiders to ambush me. Nanfeng's voice was cold. If I hadn't been careful and brought Xiaonan here, I would not have been able to walk out of this forest alive today. Right? Sorry. I don't have a choice. Pan Shen let out a long sigh. My life and Wang Mumu's life are tied to the old man behind me. I could only help him. Otherwise Mumu and I will die. Na Feng shouted, so, in order to survive, you want me to die for you? Boom! A light blue beam of light shot out and flew past Shen Pan's scalp. Shen Pan was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. He quickly picked up Old Hu and ran away like the wind. Since you betrayed me, I can't keep you. Na Feng followed Shen Pan closely, constantly pulling the trigger. One after another, light blue beams of light attacked, and each one flew past Shen Pan and Hu Lao's bodies. But none of them hit them. Fly away. Fly away. Hu Lao shouted. Shut up. Shen Pan interrupted him. Flying in the sky would only make him a living target. Then run faster. Run faster. Hu Lao urged again. Even though Mr. Hu is already level 42, he has been obsessed with studying various curses all his life. He can only hide in a dark corner, drawing a circle and cursing others. Old Hu was not good at this kind of head-on battle, and he was extremely panicked at the moment. Don't rush me. This is my limit. Shen Pan shouted coldly. I was cursed by you. My speed is less than 80% of my peak time. I can only run this fast. If you can remove my curse now, we might still have a chance. This, Mr. Hu was slightly hesitant. He was carried on Shen Pan's shoulders. He could not see Shen Pan's eyes, nor did he know whether Shen Pan was telling the truth or a lie. What if this is a good show jointly performed by Shen Pan and Na Feng? If we remove the curse on Shen Pan now, wouldn't that mean we are being played around by them? Call out. Ah! Old Hu suddenly let out a scream. It turned out that Na Feng had shot him in the calf, blowing his entire calf to pieces. Na Feng laughed from behind and said, "I want to see if you can escape from my grasp." Shen Pan gritted his teeth and yelled, "Don't hesitate. If you delay any longer, we will all die." Mr. Hu's face was pale, and the severe pain in his legs made him sweat all over. But he was still hesitant. What if Shen Pan abandoned him and ran away after the curse was lifted? "What are you hesitating about? Mumu is still cursed. Do you think I will abandon her?" Shen Pan roared, seeing the south wind getting closer. Mr. Hu gritted his teeth and began to chant a spell. Shen Pan concentrated all his attention and listened carefully to every syllable uttered by Mr. Hu. Soon, Shen Pan suddenly felt his whole body relax, and the feeling of being restrained disappeared. His pale face regained its color, and his originally weak body also regained its strength. The curse has been lifted. "Run! Run!" Boss Hu shouted. Shen Pan immediately increased his speed to the maximum, turning into a trailing shadow and shuttling through the woods. In a short while, Na Feng was left far behind. "You can't escape the 15th day. Shen Pan, I must kill you." Nan Feng's unwilling voice came from a distance, like a little villain who failed to achieve his goal. After Shen Pan and Hu Lao completely disappeared from the end of his sight, Na Feng stopped and chuckled. "Every shot is a perfect one. My marksmanship is really amazing." Xiaonan also finished the fight, jumped over to Na Feng, and punched Na Feng with his little fist. "You bastard brother. You bad brother. You are using me as bait again. I will beat you up. I will beat you up. Okay. Xiaonan, I'll compensate you with a cup of milk tea." "Okay." Na Feng was well prepared. He took out a cup of milk tea from his bag and handed it to Xiaonan. "How is the battle going on your side? Is everything resolved?" Xiaonan drank his milk tea and shook his head. "No. Only one person was killed in the explosion, and the rest all ran away." Na Feng frowned. "This shouldn't be the case. Can't you even deal with that group of little Karami?" "Xiaonan, why should I deal with them? I have no experience. I'll leave it to you to solve." 2. It would be a waste to let Xiaonan kill this powerful warrior who is over 40 levels high. Let Na Feng solve it himself. Xiaonan stretched out his hand, with a round pill in his palm. "Brother, this is what Shen Pan gave me when he grabbed my hand just now." Chapter 579 Rescue Wang Mumu. Looking at the pill Xiaonan handed over, Na Feng raised his eyebrows. "Oh! This should be the temporary antidote that Shen Pan mentioned." Na Feng took the pill. According to Shen Pan's description, this pill can temporarily suppress the curse and delay its outbreak. Na Feng opened the panel and traded the pill to Su Zuran. "Na Feng, Su Zuran, find someone to study the ingredients of this pill and see if it can be copied." Su Zuran, "Got it." After turning off the panel, Na Feng turned to Xiaonan and said, "Xiaonan, just wait here for a while. I will go to the city to bring Wang Mumu out." Xiaonan curled her lips. "You won't let me stay here as bait this time, right?" "Na Feng, look at what you said. Am I that kind of person?" After saying that, Na Feng rushed into the sky and flew towards Baishui City. On the other side, Shen Pan carried Old Hu and rushed all the way through the mountains. Mr. Hu kept staring at the direction behind him, but he didn't see Na Feng for a long time. "He's not catching up. You can stop." Hu Lao spoke weakly. "He urgently needs to treat the wound on his leg." Shen Pan didn't say a word and continued running wildly with his head down. "Shen Pan? What do you want to do?" Hu Lao realized something was wrong and quickly said, "Wang Mumu is still cursed. If I die, she will die with me." Old Hu was filled with uneasiness. He began to chant in a low voice, preparing to curse Shen Pan again. But how could Shen Pan, who had already suffered a loss once, give Mr. Hu this opportunity? He grabbed the only remaining leg of Mr. Hu and slammed it hard on the huge rock beside him. "Duan." Old man who was dizzy, "You?" Shen Pan pulled out a dagger and stabbed Hu Lao randomly in non-fatal parts of his body. If you kill me, Wang Mumu will also die." As Mr. Hu spoke, he felt his eyelids growing heavier, and he became more sleepy. Soon, he tilted his head and fell asleep. Shen Pan looked coldly as he pried open Hu Lao's mouth and stuffed a bunch of unknown pills into his mouth. After a dozen seconds, Mr. Hu began to snore. "Enough for you to sleep until Black Crow City." After doing all this, Shen Pan glanced in the direction of Baishui City, then picked up Old Hu again and ran quickly towards Black Crow City. He was not worried about Wang Mumu's safety because he believed that Na Feng could definitely rescue Wang Mumu. In Baishui City, Na Feng disguised himself as an old farmer and sneaked to the backyard of surname Hu Tea House. There were only 2 guards less than level 40 guarding the backyard. Na Feng took out the Desert Eagle and fired 2 shots, easily solving the problem. There are only 2 people guarding it, which is a bit disrespectful. Na Feng pushed open the door, walked into the thatched hut, and saw Wang Mumu hanging on the beam. Wang Mumu opened her eyes weakly. The slightly dazzling sunlight made it difficult for her to see Na Feng's appearance for a moment. Swish. Na Feng cut the rope with a knife and let Wang Mumu down. Come on. Follow me back to Black Crow City. Na Feng looked at Wang Mumu. You are? Na Feng? Wang Mumu only saw Na Feng clearly at this time and asked in surprise. Where is Shenpan? I can't leave yet. Na Feng. Shenpan has returned to Black Crow City. Don't worry. We have found a way to lift the curse. Ah. Wang Mumu was stunned for a moment. Shenpan has already gone back? Yes. Na Feng stretched out his hand and pulled Wang Mumu up from the ground. Can you walk? Looking at your condition, I guess you can't walk? So I'll carry you back. Wang Mumu shook her head slightly. No. I can teleport back. South wind. Damn. Forget about this. Only those who have joined the same city can use the teleportation array to teleport to each other. Na Feng had expelled Shenpan from Nancheng before, so Shenpan could not use the teleportation array. However, Wang Mumu has always been a member of Nancheng, so her teleportation array can be used. But she has been hanging here and has no chance to use it. Na Feng, then you should teleport back quickly. Wang Mumu nodded weakly, took out the teleportation array and left. Na Feng also quickly left Baishui City, met up with Xiaonan outside the city, and returned to Black Crow City together. Linjiang City. The snotty-nosed kid walked out of the city lord's mansion with 1,000 heavy newspapers in his arms. Even though he agreed quickly just now, when it really came to this moment, the kid was still confused. It's already afternoon. How can I sell these 1,000 newspapers before dark? I definitely can't do it alone. I have to find someone to help me. The kid's eyes lit up, and he thought of a few friends who used to beg with him. As the saying goes, if you become rich, don't forget your friends. Now that I am on the rise, of course, I have to take my friends with me to get rich together. The little boy placed the newspapers at the side door of the city lord's mansion and said to the guard on duty, Big guard, can you keep an eye on these newspapers for me? The guard nodded slightly to indicate yes. Afterwards, the little boy ran on the street and soon found 9 little beggars who were begging. He took a few little beggars and walked towards the city lord's mansion. Ergu, you just said you would take us to make a fortune. Is that true? One of the little beggars asked. R. The little brother sniffed his nose and said, Don't call me Ergu from now on. Call me little brother. Do you understand? Okay. Kid. The others said in unison. Little kid, I have accepted a mission from the city lord to help him sell newspapers. I will distribute the newspapers to you. Each of you will go in a different direction and sell the newspapers. The kid quickly arranged the tasks in an orderly manner. There were 10 people in total, each taking 100 newspapers and selling them in different places. Nowadays, the role of newspapers has spread throughout the city. Even if a newspaper costs 100 copper coins, there are still many people willing to buy it. So Xiao Haigu has no worries about not being able to sell it. In this way, I should be able to collect 100,000 copper coins before dark. Right? Things turned out just as the kid had expected. The 100 newspapers in his hand were quickly sold out at the price of 100 copper coins. During this time, a few gangsters came up to the kid with bad intentions when they saw that his pockets were full of coins. Yo man, you are a piece of shit for stealing things from kids. As the rhythmic words came to their ears, these hooligans felt a black screen before their eyes, and they were knocked unconscious and thrown into the grass on the side of the road. After selling the newspapers, the little boy happily returned to the side door of the city lord's mansion, waiting for the other friends to come back. But the sun gradually set, and none of his friends came back. The little brother was disappointed. He looked at the clinking copper coins in his pocket and remained silent. 10,000 copper coins is too much for these little kids who have been begging since birth. The kid doesn't blame them. Alas, I originally wanted to help you get promoted, make money, and marry beautiful wives. But unfortunately you guys are not up to the task. The little boy sniffed, turned around, and left the city lord's mansion. Chapter 580, Smart Kid Brother. The little brother found Guizhou, who was doing clothing business in the city, and asked him to lend him 100,000 copper coins. 100,000 copper coins is an astronomical figure for Xiao Hage. But it is nothing to Guzhou. Why should I lend it to you? Guzhou laughed. Guzhou was also very curious about the kids selling newspapers. Before today, no one in Linjiang City had ever heard of newspapers. This thing was created by the invaders. But why would the group of invaders let this kid in front of them sell newspapers? Could it be that this kid has some special identity? For example, he is the illegitimate son of an invader? Guzhou couldn't understand. But he knew that if he established a good relationship with the kid, he would be in touch with the invaders. The person in power in Linjiang City now is the invader. If Guzhou wants to continue to stay in Linjiang City, he naturally has to maintain good relations with this person. The kid replied, because you lent me 100,000 copper coins, I will return you 200,000 copper coins in the future. As the saying goes, if you don't make money, you're a bastard. Boss Gu should not chase his customers out. Right? Oh, borrow 100,000 and pay back 200,000? My interest rate is higher than usury. Guzhou became interested. It's not that I look down on you. It's just that you are a little kid. Where did you make 200,000 yuan to give back to me? The kid sniffed and said, of course, selling newspapers. I am not afraid to tell you that I have obtained the exclusive authorization from the city lord. From now on, all the newspapers in the city will be sold by me. In a month at most, I can pay you back 200,000 copper coins. Exclusive license? Guzhou thought for a moment and said, I can lend you 100,000 copper coins, and you don't have to pay back a penny. However, from now on, you have to give me 50% of the profit from selling newspapers. What does it mean to give you 50%? The kid looked confused. He has never been to school and cannot understand such professional vocabulary. Guzhou patiently explained, if you earn 10 copper coins, you have to give me 5 copper coins. The little brother glanced out the window, and seeing that it was getting dark, he gritted his teeth and said, no, I'll give you 3 coppers at most. If you don't agree, I'll go find someone else. I have plenty of time anyway. Guzhou smiled and said, it's settled then. I'll go get the money for you. Hearing this, the little brother couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, he was just a little beggar. How could he know anyone? And he doesn't have much time left. Guzhou quickly brought a wooden box filled with 100,000 copper coins. I have arranged a carriage to take you to the city lord's mansion. Guzhou smiled and said, go quickly. It will be too late if you are late. The little boy was stunned. And then he realized that Guzhou had seen through him a long time ago. Okay then. I'll go first. The little brother patted his chest and said, don't worry. Cooperate with me, and I will take you to eat delicious food and drink spicy drinks in the future. After saying that, the little boy jumped onto the carriage holding the wooden box and rushed to the city lord's mansion. On the roof, Xiao Luo saw all of this and simultaneously reported it to Xiao Luo himself. Xiao Luo, who was far away in the wild, nodded slightly. This little kid is quite smart and even knows how to borrow money from others. He chopped off the head of a ferocious beast with a backhanded blow, and then said softly, let the other little brats go. In a small courtyard in Linjiang City, Xiao Luo and Xiao Luo received this order simultaneously. Xiao Luo looked at the 9 shivering little beggars in the yard and said in a muffled voice, little friends, you can go now. These 9 little beggars were the 9 friends that the little brother asked to help sell newspapers. When they were halfway through running away with the money, they were discovered by Xiao Luo, who sent 2 clones to capture them all. The 90,000 copper coins they had on them naturally fell into Xiao Luo's pocket. You won't kill us? One of the little beggars asked tremblingly. Xiao Luo's eyes turned cold. Get out of here before I change my mind. The 9 little beggars looked at each other and immediately rushed out of the yard with all their might. Xiao Luo scratched the back of his head and looked at Xiao Luo. I'm also wondering, why don't we kill them? Xiao Luo, shut up. Xiao Luo, since you're not going to kill them, why do you want to capture them? Xiao Luo, shut up. Xiao Luo, isn't this a waste of time? I can't figure it out. Can you figure it out? Xiao Luo, shut up. Xiao Luo touched the 90,000 copper coins in his pocket, and suddenly realized, oh, I understand. We only rob money, not kill people. Xiao Luo, shut up. Xiao Luo, okay. At the same time, in Black Crow City, after Wang Mumu was teleported back, more than a dozen priests from the original 113th War Zone rushed over immediately, and used a series of healing skills on Wang Mumu's head. Wang Mumu's condition has improved a lot. But the curse on her is still not lifted. Yi Pialing held a doll in his arms and whispered, "When will this curse take your life?" Wang Mumu spoke weakly, "Early this morning. If there was a pill that could suppress the curse, I could live another day." "Is this the kind of medicine?" Yi Pialing took out a pill and said, "I only have one. And there is no way to develop a new one. This pill was given by Shenpan to Xiaonan. Xiaonan to Nafeng. Nafeng to Su Zuran. And Su Zuran finally passed it to Yi Pialing. Since coming to World Zero, Yi Pialing has been obsessed with growing various herbs and studying various toxins. Su Zuran gave her the pill because he wanted her to figure out the ingredients of the pill and try to replicate it. But the time is too short and the difficulty is too great. So replicating it is simply impossible. In other words, even with this pill, Wang Mumu could only live for less than 30 hours. Looking at Yi Pialing's solemn expression, Wang Mumu raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a smile. "It's okay. I have thought about the consequences. Don't force it." Yi Pialing patted her shoulder and comforted her. "Don't worry. There is still more than a day. We will definitely find a way to save you." Silver light came on. Yi Pialing took the pill and teleported to the South City within the fog. Without stopping, she strode towards Dragon City. She knew that Long Chung had developed an ultra-high precision microscope that might be able to help her figure out the ingredients in the pills. What's more, Long Chung now takes in millions of ordinary people. There are many knowledgeable researchers and seniors in the medical field here, and they can definitely provide some help to Yi Pialing. Dragon City, which gathers most of the wisdom of Dragon Country, can't handle a small pill? Chapter 581, the dark version of Xiao Luo. Late at night, Shenpan carried a one-legged old man on his shoulder and strode towards Black Crow's city. Seeing this, the guards guarding the city shouted, Where are the people?" While the guard was speaking, Shenpan had already transformed into a small whirlwind and rushed into Black Crow's city. Inside the city, Nafeng and Xiao Luo saw Shenpan coming back and immediately said, "Hurry! Take him to the dungeon." In the dungeon of Black Crow's city, Mr. Hu, who was in a coma, was tied up with hemp ropes. Shenpan was a little worried. Is it okay to tie him up like this? He is a level 42 warrior anyway. Using hemp rope, isn't that a bit too much of a disrespect to him? It seemed so. Nafeng touched his chin. And suddenly his eyes lit up. And he took out his mountain climbing flying claw. "Use mine. He can't tear this thing apart." The rope of the mountaineering flying claw is stretched out to 500 meters long, which is more than enough to tie up a little old man. Soon, Mr. Hu was tied up like a mummy. And Nafeng even used a rope to tie a bough on his head. "Nafeng, come on! Find a way to wake him up." Upon hearing this, Shenpan brought a basin of water and prepared to pour it on old Hu. "Wait!" Xiao Luo, who had been standing in the shadows, walked over slowly and put his hand into the basin. "Cold water? Oh! Cold water won't work. Go change it to a basin of hot water." "Boiling water?" Shenpan was startled, took a half step back, and stared at Xiao Luo. "Brother, who are you?" He. Xiao Luo let out a chuckle. "I'm Xiao Luo. The boss knows that you are going to interrogate this old man tonight, so he asked me to come over to help." It turned out to be the evil version of Luo Gu, who actually used boiling water to wake people up. How cruel! Pan Shen quickly brought a basin of boiling water and poured it on Mr. Hu. Crash! But Mr. Hu continued to snore and showed no sign of waking up. This 100-degree boiling water cannot cause any harm to a strong man of Mr. Hu's level. Xiao Luo's eyes were gloomy. "I was careless. I should have used molten iron." Shenpan took a deep breath and said, "It's over. Did I give him too much medicine? Can he still wake up?" Nafeng sneered. "The old man can't wake up from his sleep. He is probably pretending." Blackened version of Xiao Luo. If you have any other means of torturing people, use them all. He only has one leg left. So let's. Xiao Luo let out a low, oozing laugh and tickled the sole of his foot. Everyone was speechless. "Is this how you torture people? You are really evil." Shenpan looked at the only remaining leg of Mr. Hu and said, "I will chop off his leg piece by piece. I don't believe he can continue to pretend to sleep." After saying that, Shenpan walked forward and slashed at Hu Lao's thigh with a knife. Nafeng suddenly reacted at this time, and couldn't help but look at Xiao Luo with admiration. The subtext of Xiao Luo's words, just now, was that he wanted to attack Mr. Hu's other leg. But he didn't say it explicitly, and let others think about it themselves. In this way, he not only achieved his goal, but also disguised himself as an innocent person, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This blackened version does have something special. On the other side, Shinpan had already slashed more than 200 times. There was a wound deep enough to see the bone on the only remaining thigh of Mr. Hu, and blood was constantly oozing out. If the previous $200 was scraping the skin, now it's scraping the bones. Shinpan cut the bone with his knife one after another. Even though Old Hu was a level 42 warrior, he could not bear the pain of scraping the bone. "Stop it! You bunch of devils!" Mr. Hu's voice was hoarse. Nanfeng laughed and said, "Look, he's awake now. I said he was just pretending to sleep." Mr. Hu cursed, "Bullshit." He had indeed just woken up, having been woken up by Shinpan scraping his bones. "You bunch of beasts! Let me go quickly!" Boss Hu shouted. "The Lord of Baishui City and I are close friends regardless of age difference. If you catch me, the Lord of Baishui City will not let you go." "Oh, I'm so scared." Nanfeng turned his back, leaving an unfathomable back view to Old Hu. What a pity. The Lord of Baishui City has been dead for most of the day. The body should be stinking by now. Right? Mr. Hu was stunned. What? Impossible. What are you talking about?" Nanfeng laughed and said, "I'm talking nonsense? Old man, have you forgotten what happened during the day?" Mr. Hu was stunned for a moment, and an image of a little girl and 2 big fireballs flashed through his mind. The violent explosion and the terrifying energy fluctuations still make Mr. Hu feel a little nervous. Nanfeng took advantage of the victory and said at a very fast speed, "The group of strong men who surrounded me are all dead, and Baishui City has fallen into my hands. Do you still want someone to save you? Don't dream." What Nanfeng said was all false. He just wanted to put psychological pressure on Mr. Hu and make him have a mental breakdown. But Mr. Hu was not a fool. He sneered and said, "Why are you facing away from me? Is it because you are lying and afraid that I will find out? Do I need to lie?" Nanfeng turned around slowly and said, "Don't forget. Your life is in my hands. Then you kill me." Mr. Hu laughed loudly. "Don't think I don't know what you want to do. Don't you just want me to remove the curse on Wang Mumu? I tell you, you're dreaming. I'm old enough and I've lived enough. And when I die, there will be many people who will die with me. So it's worth it." As he said this, he looked straight at Shinpan. "It's a pity that the curse on you has been lifted, allowing you to save your life. But your girlfriend won't survive. I can have a deep conversation with your girlfriend on the road to the underworld." LOL. Shinpan thrust the dagger in his hand forward and stabbed it into Hu Lao's left eye. Mr. Hu screamed in pain, "Okay. Kill me. Come and kill me. Let your girlfriend be buried with me." Shinpan was furious, and his right hand swung out an afterimage, and the dagger kept stabbing into Hu Lao's stomach. Soon, blood was everywhere. "Okay, Shinpan." Nanfeng stopped him and said, "If you keep stabbing him like this, he won't survive the night. So stop." Shinpan gritted his teeth and took 2 steps back. Nanfeng looked into Mr. Hu's eyes and said coldly, "I didn't realize you were so stubborn. But there is a master torturer here. I wonder how long you can last at his hands." Old Hu spat out blood and said with a strange laugh, "I won't be able to hold on for too long. As soon as Wang Mumu dies in the early morning of tonight, you will kill me. Right? Why, this old man doesn't seem to be afraid of death at all." Nanfeng turned to look at Xiao Luo. "I'll leave this old man to you. You must let him remove Wang Mumu's curse before dawn." He. Xiao Luo laughed and said, "I will use my love to influence him." Nanfeng and Shinpan left the dungeon. Soon, bursts of pig-slaughtering screams were heard in the dungeon.